Today, Lord, we praise you for that and the men and women around the world. Lord, we ask for protection tonight for the crews, for the drivers, for the safety crews, everyone involved. And Lord, we look forward to a great evening of entertainment. Lord, it's in your name, Jesus Christ, that we pray. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome Chicagoland country artist, McKenna Hartland.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Our national anthem, and the skydivers from Team Fat Track that made their way into the Chicago.
40 drivers about ready to take on the mile-and-a-half of Chicagoland Speedway. Coming up next, it's the command to fire engines.
Give them hell, have fun.
Yes, sir.
going into the wall so hard.
Elliott just made mincemeat out of that pack of traffic.
Chase Elliott keeps himself in contention and wins in Richmond. A great championship fight, and every race ends up being a fight to find out who will get to victory lane. For more of the storylines from tonight, let's go trackside. Dave Burns.
And the fourth and other driver you have to talk about in the championship, Rick, is Regan Smith. 49 points out. He needs the kind of day the junior motorsports drivers have had the last few weeks. They've won 2 of the last 5 races in this series, and Regan Smith needs another W tonight to push himself toward the championship. Kelly.
Dave, a handful of drivers will be performing double duty this weekend, but for Kyle Larson in the 42, all 3 major series for him this weekend. He's already raced in the truck series earlier today, where he finished 7th after gambling on fuel. Kyle told me it's always beneficial to get the extra track time. There's always something to be learned. We'll see what he learned in that race and cup practice today. He starts 6th. Marty?
Kelly, one of the big questions tonight, can Chase Elliott win back-to-back races? If he's going to do it, he has his work cut out for him. He starts 17th this evening. I talked to his crew chief, Ernie Cope, a moment ago, and he said, you know what? At some point, I'm going to have to try alternate strategy, and I'm willing to do that tonight. Mike?
Marty, if you're looking for a favorite, you need to look no further than the pole sitter tonight, Kyle Busch. Not only has he won 3 races here in Chicagoland Speedway, he's led over 700 laps at this track. I asked him after qualifying, what does he expect tonight? He said, I expect to lead 200 more laps. And Rick, I don't think he was kidding.
200 laps, well, that would be every lap here at Chicagoland. And if he did it, he'd win his 4th Chicagoland race in the Xfinity Series. But we need to fire the engine, so let's go trackside for tonight's command.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, General Manager for Universal Pictures Home Entertainment, John Morici.
Drivers, start your engines.
"40 cars have come to life. Now we're ready for those 200 laps from Chicagoland. It's Xfinity Series Racing here on NBCSN. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by X1 from Xfinity. Will change the way you experience TV.
Rear win number 2 for Chris Buescher. He wins the 3M 250 at the Iowa Speedway.
The battle we have coming into the end of the year is turning out the people. quite a good one. We have 3 of us that are very close together and have been for a long time.
But I love the way Ty says, I just want to win.
Chris and Chase are great competitors, and it's been pretty fun the last couple years racing against these guys.
It's going to come to an end here under the lights. Chase Elliott wins in Richmond.
You know, the way I see it is I was never very good at math, but I do know if you finish in front of the other guy, you're going to gain more points than him. So you get the most amount of points by leading the most laps and winning the race. So that's our goal.
He's got momentum. Chase Elliott won the last race out for the Xfinity Series. Now it's time to take on Chicagoland Speedway. Let's take a look at how everyone will start tonight as they're rolling off of pit road. Up front, Kyle Busch won the pole. He's the only driver to win at Chicagoland from the pole. He did it back in 2013.
Row 2 is Daniel Suarez and Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon has never finished out of the top 10 here at Chicagoland.
Back in row 3, Kyle Larson finished runner-up in this race last year. He was 7th in the truck race earlier today.
Row 4 has Cup regular Paul Menard against the points leader, Chris Buescher.
And back in row 5, Ryan Reed. Best start since Daytona in July here in row 5.
Row 6 is Brendan Gaughan and Darrell Wallace. Darrell Wallace on a hot streak. Top 10s in the last 5 mile-and-a-half tracks.
Back in row 7, Brian Scott has 6 top 10s right here at Chicagoland. That's the most of all tracks for him.
Row 8 is Jeremy Clements and John West Townley. John got to the wall a little bit qualifying, but it already ran 10th today in the truck race.
Back in row 9, Chase Elliott. It's the worst start ever on a mile-and-a-half track, but he won here in July of 2014, so maybe the starting position won't matter tonight.
Row 10 is Elliott Sadler and Cale Conley. Elliott Sadler won here in 2012, but will have to go to the rear tonight for unapproved adjustments.
So the cars are out on the track. Steve, let's see if we can chat with one of the competitors, Brian Scott, who is so good here at Chicagoland. Let's see if we can chat with him on the radio.
Hey, Brian, it's Steve Letard up in the NBCSN booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, Steve. V860.
So, Brian, when we come to Chicago, we always talk about a multi-groove racetrack that's very hard to get around with all of the bumps. Yet, your statistics, this is your best track you run at. Why are you so good here at Chicago?
Well, like you said, we must figure out a way to get through the bumps better than a lot of people. Proud of the effort everybody here at our Jewel Osco Craft Velveeta Chevrolet put forward. I think we got a good handling race car. I wish our speed was a little better, but we got 200 laps, hopefully some long runs to make handling play into this thing and work our way through the bumps to the front of this field.
You do. You talk about how unique this racetrack is and how difficult it is. Well, you're running double duty here, both on the Xfinity side and the Sprint Cup side. It seems you have good speed in both garages. Do you feel that double duty helps with the extra practice time?
Absolutely. I feel like it's a big benefit. You just get more track time. You get to figure out the characteristics of the track a little better before you go racing. And when you get to race a Sprint Cup car, when you come back here to the Xfinity Series, everything seems to be a little bit slowed down, and I think it allows you to get more out of your car. So absolutely, big benefit.
Well, great. Thanks for talking to us, and good luck tonight.
Thank you very much.
And leading the field today is the 2016 Toyota Camry XSE. It's the official pace car of Chicagoland Speedway. We're going to ride along with a few different drivers tonight. One of those being one of our title contenders, Chase Elliott. He has the Xfinity on board. He'll start 17th tonight. Brian Scott, we just heard from him and saw him. He also carries one of the cameras, the Chevy onboard camera. He'll start 13th. Chris Buescher, points leader. As we get ready to take on Chicagoland, has the Sunoco onboard camera. He'll start 8th tonight. And Ryan Blaney, driving the 22, starts 5th. He has the Ford EcoBoost in-car camera. Let's go back to pit road. Dave Burns.
Rick, the man over my right shoulder in the middle is Shane Wilson. He's a crew chief for Brendan Gaughan, who we know loves to run the high line at most every track. Shane just told me whenever the high line is not a disadvantage, that works in our favor, and that certainly is in their favor here at the Chicagoland Speedway. What else? They had their best run ever at this speedway in June, finishing 4th. Kelly?
Brian Scott missed the 3rd round of qualifying by just 0.02 of a second. Certainly don't count him out. He told me for whatever reason they just haven't come to grips with their qualifying setups this year. But not only is Chicagoland one of his favorite tracks, it's his most successful. 6 top 10s here, more than any other place. He's still looking for his first career win, and he'd love to get it here today. Marty?
Well, Kelly, if you're looking for an Xfinity Series regular to put himself in victory lane tonight, the best bet might be Ty Dillon. He starts 4th this evening and told me moments ago he honestly feels like he has a car that can not only keep up with the Gibbs cars, but can also beat those Gibbs cars. And he also told me, listen, if we're going to start making some noise in this championship chase, we need to put ourselves in victory lane. If he can do that tonight, it would be his first win of 2015. Mike?
Well, Marty, for Paul Menard, this is his 8th and final Xfinity race of the season, and he certainly wants to end on a very high note. Following practice, he said he had a very good car. His main concern, however, is he didn't feel like the speed matched up with the Gibbs cars. He said there is one intangible factor he can count on, though. He feels like he and this team can outrace them and get to victory lane today. Rick?
Thanks, Mike. Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods, and the clouds have moved out of the way as it's 5:15 here locally, and the sun could become a factor in this race as it begins to set here on Chicagoland Speedway. That Camry pace car makes the left turn onto pit road, leaving the field in the hands of Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth. Kyle Busch chose the inside line. Kenseth will be on the outside as they come into the tri-oval. Green flags in the air. We're racing at Chicagoland. Bobble out of Daniel Suarez in the 18. We saw him on the bottom of the racetrack, got a little bit loose, still fighting for that second spot as they work their way through 3 and 4.
His balance is the same in 3 and 4. It just looks free. He can't commit to the throttle, can't commit to the wheel. That's going to open the door for Ryan Blaney to go all the way down against the grass. There's no out of bounds here at Chicago. Use every bit of pavement you can.
Daniel Suarez trying to get his wheels underneath him as he works that little bit higher line now. And Jamie, you had mentioned before, multiple grooves on this racetrack. You can run about anywhere around this track.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked. I saw the 42 and a couple other guys go high in 1 and 2 on the start. I thought that was going to be an advantage and that they could get a run on those guys, but it just looked like the bottom was a little bit better on the initial start. It does look like guys are fighting to get to the bottom in turns 3 and 4, even if they ran a little bit high in 1 and 2.
And that's what's different. You know, these Xfinity cars, unlike the Sprint Cup cars, have less power, have a little bit more downforce. And you just wonder if the tires are still too new. They're probably wide open or close to wide open on the bottom of 1 and 2. It's just extra distance. As you see here, Chase Elliott getting the push from Bubba Wallace.
Darrell Wallace Jr. in the 6, just behind Chase Elliott. Also trying to work into the mix, the 88 of Casey Kane. Kane starting back in the 14th position, so we'll see how well he works through the field.
That's one way to do it. Darrell Wallace gives Chase Elliott the shove to the bottom, makes it a little bit harder to make the bottom and stay in the gas, and then rolls the top and carries good momentum.
Yeah, he's really confident in his car to be able to push a guy down the backstretch, and when he goes to the bottom to just stay and run the high groove. That was interesting what you guys said, that he had 5 top 10s. Yeah, he's been super consistent on the 1.5 miles.
And there we saw Casey Kane in the 88. Great Clips 88 make the move around Chase Elliott, took the spot away. Now he's running in the tire tracks of the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr.
It's going to be interesting to see. You know, last week it seemed like the Junior Motorsports cars just had a big step in the right direction with their chassis. At Richmond they had great speed, but then Chase Elliott comes here to Chicago, and while the track is very, very different, has his worst qualifying ever in 1.5 miles. You know, this is the time. With 8 races left, he has to capitalize on the momentum of that win and try to gain some points back.
And here is a perfect example of the multi-grooves of this racetrack. We saw Chase Elliott right there on the white line, hugging the white line through 3 and 4. And at the other end of the track, Casey Kane was all the way up against the wall going through 3 and 4.
Yeah, you know, the tires just haven't, I think you had a good point there, Steve. I think the tires just have so much grip, and the cars can run so fast on the bottom right now. The top is just, more distance around. But you give them 20 laps and the top's going to come in. I think you'll see most guys running up there.
How do you manage your tires here, Jamie? If this is a rough racetrack, is there a line that will help you manage your tires?
I think you manage tires when your crew chief gives you a good car. That's what makes tires manageable. If you have a bad car, you can't manage your tires.
Well, Jamie, it's been great having you on the broadcast. We really appreciate you coming up.
You made it through one segment, Jamie. Nice job.
It's all on my shoulders, and we really appreciate you. Where's Jeff Burton?
There's John West-Tadley in the 25. Up in a little bit higher line there. Just behind him in the 43, Dakota Armstrong. Out in front, it's Kyle Busch. He's led All 7 laps that have been run, 200 laps, 300 miles, the scheduled distance. Kyle has about a 0.3 of a second lead over Matt Kenseth. So Kenseth and Kyle Busch have separated themselves from third place Ryan Blaney, who's about 2 seconds behind these two.
And this is unlike normally when we see the 54 of Kyle Busch. When he has a good car, he kind of runs off and tries to hide, but that 20 of Matt Kenseth is not allowing him to do it. And down here 1 and 2, what I really like is Matt's going to run wherever Kyle doesn't. The last lap, Kyle ran the bottom, Matt ran high. We'll see what they do this time.
Well, when Kyle saw Matt run the middle and get a run on him, I knew exactly where Kyle was going to run this time through there. It's, you know, you look in your mirror when you come off the corner, you listen to your spotter, and if you think the guy has an advantage behind you, even though it's early in the race, you'll move up and try to make that work for yourself. Kyle's doing that right now. However, if Matt's able to make the other line work and be faster, I think you'll see Kyle let him go.
Are there tendencies about drivers? You just mentioned you knew where Kyle Busch was going to go. Is there a tendency that when you're racing around somebody, you know where they're going to go?
Well, the reason I say that is because we weren't on them on TV, but I was watching, and I saw Matt get a huge run, and so did Kyle, and so did Kyle's spotter. So immediately Kyle's going to move up. The fact that they're having to run the bottom because there's so much grip right now, the first guy to move up normally has a little bit of an advantage if he can make that work. I see that Kyle's moved up now, and it looks like he's either taking a little air away from Matt, or he's just found some grip.
Yeah, it didn't take long.
Nope.
10 laps, and we're going to move off the bottom of the racetrack.
Kenseth was here in June, but was actually watching his son Ross drive the number 20 car. He finished 6th. We'll see if Dad can do a little bit better. Kyle Busch out in front here at Chicagoland. Watch a live stream of every Xfinity Series race with NBC Sports Live Extra. It's available on your laptop, tablet, smartphone, and connected TVs. NBC Sports Live Extra brings you closer to every race. Still out front, it's Kyle Busch. Now he's got a little over a half a second lead over Matt Kenseth, running in the second spot. Let's go back to pit road for a few updates. We'll start with Mike Massaro.
Well, Rick, normally when you canvass the Xfinity garage on race weekend and you go in the 22 camp, you see some smiles, at least some confidence, some swagger. That wasn't necessarily the case yesterday. A lot of down faces. head shaking. They were frustrated. They couldn't get the car where they wanted it to be. Right now, it's not perfect, but there is some optimism in that camp. Blaney has said he's got great drive off. His entry is good. His main concern right now is turning in the center. Kelly?
Running just behind him in the 4th position is Daniel Suarez. He has had 3 straight top 10s on mile-and-a-half tracks, which has come a little bit of a surprise to the team. As crew chief Eric Phillips said, with his experience, really thought he would be better at short tracks and on road courses, and that we'd struggle on the mile-and-a-half. But he said he thinks there's a combination of Daniel's driving and the cars. He said Daniel's much more comfortable, and we do well on the long runs. When the green flags start coming, that's when we really shine. Right now, though, his car is a little bit tight, Dave.
Kelly, before the drivers fired engines today, I talked about Regan Smith as the other car being discussed in the championship. When I discussed with crew chief Jason Burdett about their car in comparison to the championship contenders, he said the 60, the 3, and us, we're pretty close. We just have to outrace them and out-adjust them tonight. Marty?
Well, Dave, we said it in the pre-race. Chase Elliott would have his hands full trying to start 17th tonight and win back-to-back races here in the Xfinity Series. He's only made his way up to 15th, trying to get to 14th right now underneath Ryan Reed. Looks like he's going to get that spot. Problem is the car is very loose in and loose off. But even before the race started, his spotter, Eddie DeHaan, who's spotting for him today, warned him of something that all drivers need to be aware of here at Chicago. Take a listen.
Just remember, pit road entrance here is really tricky. We missed it in practice, and a bunch of guys missed it. I know you know, but I just want to make sure I reminded you one time. Yes, sir. No, I'm all good with the reminders.
And when he says we missed it, he means Jeff Gordon missed it, trying it in practice earlier today in the Sprint Cup Series. Jamie, you can talk about this. Getting on pit road here at Chicagoland on old tires at speed in a green flag stop, one of the most difficult on the entire circuit.
It is, and so I keep notes after every race, and that's one of the things that I put in my note is what was my breaking point coming to pit road? Because typically in the race, it's further back than it is in practice. You've run longer on tires, the track has less grip. But even from the breaking point that I was going to use from last year, for some reason I couldn't get the car slowed down. I don't know if it's because we have less downforce. I don't know if I was running faster, but I missed it. I missed it once by a long ways. I missed it the second time and still almost got in the grass. And the third time I felt like I was like, I just need to stop way early, and I still almost didn't get to pit road. So this is, I don't remember this one being so tricky, but a lot of guys missed it in cup practice.
And it's a pretty dramatic transition coming off of the racetrack and onto the apron, but we're seeing some drivers do it as they come through the trioval and across the start-finish line. They'll make that move down to the apron. Does that upset the cars enough, or do you think it gives you an advantage? Oh, we're seeing some debris on the backstretch. Ryan Blaney, the 22 left rear tire has completely blown out.
Left rear tire, guys, left rear tire.
So he's doing the best he can. That tire's actually up on the inner liner. The tire's flat. The liner inside of the tire is trying to hold the car off the ground, but it has a tremendous amount of damage to the left rear quarter panel. Blaney was hustling.
He was doing it's really hard to explain how you know it's flat, but you're like, I got to get to pit road. I want to get my tire on so I don't lose a lap. And he was driving that right there.
He was running third, Mike.
Yeah, and the 22 team obviously ready to go to work as the 22 comes down pit road. Ryan Blaney, heavy damage. You can take a look at that left rear quarter panel, just completely torn apart. The tire itself is shredded. Lots of damage on the left side. They complete service on the right side, but it's going to take a lot longer here to remove the tire and the wheel and all the carnage inside that wheel well before they can make that change. They're still working on it. They rip it away and they make the change. Rather quickly, I might add. Surprisingly, a good job there. Still pulling away the fender as they get ready.
And they came right to pit road. He had to because of the damage to that car. Pit road was closed. It's open now, so the rest of the field's going to be making their way onto pit road.
And I would expect all the leaders to pit. 22 laps here at Chicagoland. They have 5 sets of tires in their pits. So the way you break this race up to after 22 laps, I would expect all the leaders wanting new tires.
And you've got 2 of the best guys on pit road getting in and out of their pit stalls in first and second right now. This is Matt and Kyle do such a good job at cheating the timing lines here.
Kelly Stavis.
As Daniel Suarez comes to a stop, he says his car is just way too tight, and 1 and 2 is tight center, off 3 and 4 super tight as he runs at bottom, and sun is becoming an issue, Mike.
Matt Kenseth saying his car is very tight. They'll go to service on that race car as well. Meanwhile, Paul Menard saying the same thing. 4 tires and fuel there, an air pressure adjustment on the 33. And the 54 of Kyle Busch, pretty good with his race car right now. wearing the right rear a little bit more than he would like, but he expected that early in the run, Rick.
How about the gamble by the 2 team as we watch the race off pit road, brought to you by Geico. 2 tires for Brian Scott puts him in front of the field. Welcome back to the Furious 7 300. Get news, results, and highlights delivered straight to your inbox. Subscribe to the free official NASCAR newsletter at NASCAR.com/newsletter. Brian Blaney making his way back off of pit road. This is what happened. We ride along.
Yeah, you hear the left rear tire shreds, and then he does a great job. I mean, he still hits the wall hard, but it could have been much worse.
Yeah, you're just, when you lose a left rear, you literally, typically you hit driver's side first because the car spins all the way out. So he did a really good job keeping it.
And as odd as this is going to sound, the tire shreds right here completely and takes some sheet metal with it. And it's almost good for him because then it's guaranteed to have a yellow and he can stop and try to get it repaired.
Mike Massaro.
Well, Rick, as you can see, this is the end result, not what they wanted to see. The question is, what caused it? Now, Goodyear engineers have been down here looking at the tire. They've been consulting with the team. They're trying to ascertain exactly what led to this. They don't know at this point yet, but if we get a further update on that, we will know. It sounds like I've just been handed a note by a Goodyear engineer saying they believe it was a rub, a tire rub on the left rear. So this is obviously not the start to the race that Ryan Blaney and the 22 team was hoping for. Obviously significant damage to the left rear quarter panel of that race car.
Those are the mysteries that just frustrate you too, Rick, because, you know, it's just a rubber tire, right? I mean, if you run over a bolt, a screw, a rivet, anything on the racetrack, you can cut the tire, but you saw the damage to the tire. It's so hard to try to reconstruct that and figure what really happened.
How about the 2-car and Brian Scott on restarts? This is what they had to say on the radio.
I think bottom's going to be better through the first corner. 54 might try to split me. Who knows? Just got to hang on here. Hope we can get out clean.
I have some concern, Rick. On 2 tires, this restart's going to be very difficult for Brian Scott.
Yeah, I think on 2 tires, I personally would have wanted the outside, so you have a little give.
Coming back to the green flag, Brian Scott, Matt Kenseth making up row 1.
And what do I know, right? Well, he did pretty good right there.
Yeah, no, he did. He did a great job. You see 3 wide behind him, though. 4 wide as the 88, Casey Kane, goes all the way to the top of the track.
Yeah, it's amazing how quick the bottom is. I really didn't think he'd be able to hang on like that on 2 tires, but he did a really good job there. 54 gave him a really nice push. That's so much fun. I know that's fun to watch. That is so much fun to get to be a part of being 3 wide on a restart. As long as you're not the guy in the middle getting passed. Make that clear.
66 got the free pass, and the 13 took wave around back to the lead lap. We see second place, a good battle here between teammates. Kyle Busch on the outside, Kenseth on the inside.
Yeah, the 42 had a really good restart there too. He was running 7th or 8th earlier. I didn't feel like his car looked like it was that good, but they made a good adjustment on it here.
Here comes Kyle Busch, momentum on that higher line. See Brian Scott. How much is he driving out of the rear view mirror right now, trying to stay in front of Kyle?
Completely, I would say. Yeah, he's doing. I mean, to me, I really didn't think he'd be able to hang on as well as he even has. The 54 has been the best car, but obviously clean air is super important.
Is it too early to be blocking? It looks to me like right now he's almost blocking more than trying to stay out front.
I think what you saw there is that Brian committed to the throttle in the middle of 1 and 2, and the car was sliding up. I don't think he was blocking there. I think he was just hanging on.
Hanging on.
Hanging on.
Again, he came down and got 2 tires, trying to get track position. Now for the lead, here comes Kyle Busch once again, all the way to the inside, and he'll take the top spot away from Brian Scott.
But Brian is doing a great job. We heard on the radio, Matt Kenseth is probably going to come by here pretty easily as well. Remember, they're on 2 tires. They're not trying to lead the race on 2 tires. They're trying to flip some strategy, trying to gain some track position. So now really it's just a question of how far he falls. It was almost a given he wasn't going to hold the lead, but now that he doesn't have the clean air, how quick will 3rd and 4th and 5th get there?
Because there is a huge difference leading on 2 tires to just having 1 car pass you, much less 2. His car all of a sudden got really tight, if I'm going to just guess at what his radio is saying right now.
Yeah, and you know, something that Jamie and I were talking about is we don't remember the sun really being an issue here at Chicagoland, but it's a really odd angle. I don't know if it's just this late in the year or how it's this show or the angle it is, but this is on board with Buescher. And you see right here, you're driving right into that sun just as you get into turn 3, Jamie, trying to get to the the bottom of the racetrack.
Right.
It has to be an issue.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as big of a deal running the bottom, but when you run a foot off the wall, it's a really big deal because you're using certain reference points around the track of where you need to be, and it could be that you're using like that's the top seam. If you look here as he goes down the backstretch, you can see the seam that his left front is almost on. Like I typically use those when I enter. I'll try to put my left front on that seam and ride it all the way around. But when the sun takes that away, it takes your reference point away. It makes it a lot more difficult.
We heard Chris get out of the gas just a little bit there through the center of the corner.
I'm going to use this opportunity to apologize ahead of time that Mr. Jamie McMurray, when I call you Jeff, it's really just because of
out of respect.
Jeff and I have worked together so long. We have 10 weeks under our belts in the booth, so you can see how it would just be so natural. But so I apologize ahead of time, but I appreciate you just powering through. Didn't even correct me. That was nice.
That's nice that I didn't even know you called me Jeff.
We'll bring name tags next time.
Okay, that'll help.
The 7, though, of Regan Smith may have just got into the wall. Looks like that right side is flat-sided now.
And this is a big concern because the aerodynamics play such a huge part. You see here, he just gets a little high. And while that doesn't seem like much, that right rear quarter panel is so crucial. When we talk especially about running the top, you kind of lean on that air up there. That right rear has to have grip. And if you've damaged that quarter panel at all, it's going to make a loose-end race car even looser.
Yeah, he's definitely on the radio telling them to make sure on the next pit stop to pull and pull a little more even than what I had before.
Yep.
And now here comes Paul Menard in 33.
Yeah, he's losing ground right now, so it's definitely hurt him a little more than you think.
Going the wrong direction for Regan Smith. One of the top 4 in points here in the Xfinity Series. Up front, Kyle Busch back in front of the field at Chicagoland. Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Beautiful facility here at Chicagoland Speedway. Formula One action on NBCSN is under the lights tomorrow from the heart of Singapore. Championship points leader Lewis Hamilton will look to make it 3 wins in a row. Singapore Grand Prix live tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. Coverage presented by Power Shares. Kyle Busch out in front of Matt Kenseth, but the gap now has almost completely disappeared as we see Matt Kenseth looking to the bottom of the track. That's for the race lead. Here comes Kenseth, the bottom with momentum as he gets to the door, down to the apron, and Kenseth is going to lead that lap, and he is in front of the field now at Chicagoland. Now, we were listening into the radio of Kyle Busch just moments ago. Let me let you guys hear this again and see if this might be one of the reasons why Kyle Busch is just falling back. What's he saying there? I heard a pop inside the car.
He heard a pop inside the car, and he thinks he knows what it was. So it could be a number of things. But, Jamie, when we were talking about it during the break, you mentioned a spring, and I think that's a great synopsis. You know, the way these front springs get mounted in the race car, you know, they have to be down, seated in the bucket. You know, there's a certain way they have to be in there, kind of locked in. And it's very easy for one of those to rotate a little bit, not be seated in. And the concern is, if you scale your car and you set all these very important heights and that thing pops into, you know, we talk about a half around a wedge. Well, if that spring moved a couple inches, that's way more than a half around a wedge.
Right, and we just had a pit stop. So, I mean, there could be that it came out during the pit stop and maybe it popped back in, but his lap times are suffering right now. You know, Kenseth's running similar times what they ran earlier, and Kyle is fading a little bit.
And those are the nuances that, you know, Kyle Busch says, hey, I think I know what it is. When we talk about experience as a race car driver, we just don't mean how do you go through 3 and 4 faster? How do you communicate it's all these small things, because he was calm, he gave good feedback. So Kyle running back the 20 back down now, maybe the car's handling a little different, but he can report to the crew chief to perhaps what they need to do to try to overcome that.
Well, he didn't seem worried either. When he said it, he wasn't panicked. So I don't know. It's interesting. Matt got by him, and now it looks like Kyle's actually starting to run him down. But Matt, I just saw when they went into turn 3, Matt drove in really deep. It looked like he got loose. So I'm guessing the 20 car might be a little bit free right now.
And we saw that Brian Scott came onto pit road this last time, changed 2 tires to gain some track position, started up front, but now has fallen back to 7th. Kelly?
And they're in the midst of a strong run of finishes. Brian Scott and this 2 team have 6 top 10s in the last 7 races, including 3 top 5s. And they've made no secret that they were willing to get aggressive in order to help get Brian Scott his first ever Xfinity Series win. We saw it with that 2-tire stop. But now he's been dropping back through the field. Brian saying, I'm loose in, loose off, loose everywhere. On top of it, he's having trouble seeing in turns 3 and 4. Mike?
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of that going around, Kelly, because Paul Menard is basically saying the same thing, and it's almost exactly what he experienced during practice. They were too free and had a lot of trouble getting through the middle of the turn. Well, Paul just radioed in not too long ago saying, I'm loose in on both ends, and by the way, I'm loose off too. They've got lots to work on, Marty.
Mike checking in with our championship leader, Chris Buescher, who's in a mess, as you can see, with Casey Kane and Elliott Sadler right there, running in the 11th position. You know, Scott Graves said earlier this week, you know, when we went to Darlington a few weeks ago, we had to get better, so we experimented with setup. But when we were here in June, we felt like we were pretty good, so they came back to basic setups, having a fun run there with Casey Kane and those guys. He was tight on that first run. They took a round and a half out of the left rear wedge bolt, and he's still tight. In fact, he said it may be even worse on this run, Dave.
Marty, Elliott Sadler is driving that 1 car. He started 39th after having to go to the rear for unapproved adjustments. I asked Phil Gould about it. He said, we had to work on the car. We qualified 19th. We thought there was something wrong with it, and we did more than the rules allow between qualifying and the start of the race. He was 16th on this last restart. He's going in the right direction, and Elliott said the drive off is really good, just a little bit tight right now. And as for Regan Smith, who tapped the wall just a little while ago, he radioed in and he said, I am extremely tight in the 7 car. I probably heard it when I hit the wall.
That will definitely do it. He flat-sided the right side of that car and has been able to stay on track, and they haven't come to pit road to make any adjustments or fix that damage on the right side. Crew Chief Steve, I'm going to ask you the question, how many laps can we go green flag on fuel? What's the fuel window?
Well, from everything I hear, there's a little bit of discrepancy on pit road. Some of the Chevrolets think they can go 54 to 55 laps, but some of the Toyotas can go 57 to 58, and we've seen those Roush Yates Fords at Dover. They've extended the mileage in some other areas, so I think the whole field is between 55 and 60 laps.
Okay.
One car we've been watching, and Jamie pointed to him on the timing and scoring, Ty Dillon. He's starting to find some speed, and this is the type of track that, just seems to suit him. He runs right up against the wall with a lot of confidence. We had this conversation earlier today that he runs in areas that perhaps everyone else doesn't run. And when I watch him around the racetrack, when you talk about the top, he's at the top. We think that Casey Kane here in the 88's run at the top. Well, the 42 of Kyle Larson, he is half a groove higher.
Yeah. Well, and we actually chatted with you a little bit earlier this morning, and we were talking about lines around racetracks, and you had mentioned how your teammate Kyle Larson runs a line that you have flirted with or even thought about maybe going there, but then for some reason decided not to.
Well, what I said is that when I get ready to run a line, or if I'm going to enter and run really high on the track, I always ask myself, is the risk worth the reward? and most of the time I say probably not. Kyle he's really brave, and he's good at running the top. And the thing that Kyle is so good at is that he'll commit to entering high. And when you enter, you see how high he's entering the corner. When you enter that high, if you do get in the wall, it's typically a lighter hit. If you enter a car length or a car and a half down, and then you slide up into the wall, you normally hit kind of like Regan did, and it's a much harder hit.
And you see it's working. There's the speed at the line. Kyle Larson gets a great run in the top of the racetrack, gets in the gas really, really early. And like you mentioned, the top wasn't there on new tires, but now that we're in, a 26 laps into a green flag run, it seems like the top, well, you knew he was going to be the first to do it, right? Why not?
Yeah. Fastest that last lap was Kyle Larson. Still out front is Matt Kenseth, driving that number 20. Test your skill in predicting the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion with the all-new Chase Grid Battle Game. Play today for a chance to win great prizes at NASCAR.com/battle. You might want to choose I don't know, Jamie McMurray as far as who you have in your chase grid advancing. I want to take a look at the Toyota driver update. 2 drivers driving Toyotas that are up at the top of this list, also involved with the chase for the Sprint Cup. Right now, first and second, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch. Daniel Suarez, mentioned him at the top of the show. He's running in the top 5, looking for that first win. J.J. Yaley, Kill Conley, rounding out the top 5 in our Toyota update. Matt Kenseth, though, seems to have found something around this racetrack. At least the fastest laps have been turned by either the 20 or the 42 the last 3 laps we've been watching.
Well, Matt's stuck in traffic right now, and he's just asking those guys to pick one lane or the other. He doesn't really care which one, just give him a groove.
They did. They picked all 3.
Yeah, they did. They took the whole track on him. But as I was watching Matt, he actually has been running the bottom of both ends. And I don't know, he found a little bit of speed. It didn't look like he changed his line. But that's bad news to me for the rest of the field, because to me that means Matt has a little bit in the bag. If he wants to go to the top, he can and maybe pick up a little more. Kyle Larson's still doing a really good job, though, running that high line.
I've always been told, though, when you run the bottom, it just, in my mind, and I was never a driver, I was, we got the one on pit road, Dave.
Pit road.
Phil Gould making the right call, all four, and that's because Elliott Sadler radioed in, I might have a flat. I don't know where it is, but I'll come to pit road. Wedge adjustment happening as well. He'd been complaining that the car was just too tight in the center, but a feeling like that, Jamie, will bring a driver to pit road immediately.
They didn't take the windshield tear-off off either.
Somebody is not going to appreciate that here in a little bit.
No.
That is going to come off and get on someone's grill.
Which we've seen before at this racetrack. It happened to Joey Logano last year in the Cup race.
The good news is it's probably not for Elliott. It's not going to be on his.
Pretty good chance there's going to be 40 other cars that come by before you.
Right. Let's take a look at what happened and why Elliott Sadler was on pit road this early. Well, this is the tear off here.
And you see he goes to tear it off and it gets hung over there on the right side, and he goes to reach, but he knows his time's running out. When the pit crew comes around, he has to get out of the way. I question if he couldn't have gone over to the right side at this point and continue to tear it off. But like you said, chances are it's probably not going to end up on his grill.
And I don't
hanging on.
I don't know, how it works for every pit crew, but sometimes those guys that pull a tear off or do that job, it might be a different person sometimes week to week. So maybe the guy, he probably did the right thing because he wasn't comfortable running around there, possibly causing a penalty.
Yeah, don't make it worse. And to your point, these Xfinity teams, even like a Roush Fenway car, like this one, a full-time car with multiple teams, they still, everyone has a limit with how many people you have at the racetrack. And that's a good job for someone who doesn't come a lot until, of course, they show you on NBCSN.
Right, and we talk about it.
Yeah. Right now, his wife or his mother's, was that you? No, Mom, that wasn't me.
And we're hearing that it was, they thought they had a flat tire or a tire going down, and that's why Elliott Sadler made that unscheduled pit stop.
And as a driver, when you don't really know what happened to Ryan Blaney, but he had a flat tire and he crashed, and Elliott was probably like, you know what, I feel like I possibly could have one. I'm not going to risk it.
Top 5, Paul Menard, Brian Scott, Regan Smith, Casey Kane, Chase Elliott, the top 10. I want to take a look at our Toyota Camry on-track car, NBC Sports, and focus in on the top of the windshield. We just saw the tear-off coming off, but how about the top of the windshield? That painted black line across the top of the windshield. For the sun, is that so that these drivers maybe have a chance of blocking some of the sun out?
Yeah, so that's a border actually that goes across the top of the windshield. It's really just like the sun visor. You flip down in your car, you try to get it down where you can look below it, but it blocks the sun from getting in your eyes. And you have the opportunity, Jamie, and I know you probably do, that you can add more dark shield down. As you see down on Chris Buescher, he has it extended all the way down. You see over to the left side, all that orange is his pull tab.
Yeah.
So he can remove it as the sun goes down or if it's in his way.
So that's what he has set up there. So when the sun goes down, he thinks he doesn't need that anymore. He can reach up and he'll pull that tape off. I did a really good job last year of taking notes and working with the team where when we go to mile-and-a-half tracks or when we go to Phoenix, they already know exactly where to put that tape at. So it's done for you.
Marty.
And guys, we've talked about tire fall off, so you'll see some teams pitting a little bit earlier here. They can go to about lap 77, 78. Ty Dillon's team pitting from 4th. They go down 2 rounds on the track bar. Mike?
Paul Menard on pit road. He was loose on both ends. He made a 4-tire change and an air pressure adjustment.
So green flag pit stops are starting. Regan Smith on pit road as well, Dave.
He said the car felt wobbly. Have I broken the track bar? Do I have a left rear tire going down? Not a good feeling for this driver running 9th after he tapped the wall earlier. A 4-tire change, track bar adjustment. The car, balance-wise, was very tight. Kelly?
Kyle Larson in the 42 said it's taking forever for the front end to settle, and now he just said he's just getting a little bit tight, especially as he runs up high. They're going to make a wedge adjustment, and it'll be 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for the 42, Mike.
Kyle Busch has been waiting for this adjustment. They're going to throw a chassis wrench in, make a track bar adjustment. The car's been over-rotating. He hasn't been happy with that at all. They're going to make a 4-tire change as well, and Sunoco race fuel for Kyle Busch. Kelly?
Brian Scott, remember last time down it was just 2 tires for Brian Scott. Well, he has really been struggling to find rear grip. You see this time they're going to give him 4 fresh Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel, and you see the adjustment there on the 2, Mike.
Overall, Matt Kenseth has been pretty happy with his race car. As you might imagine, he's been out front in clean air. Although he says if there's one thing they need to correct, he's been a little bit loose heading into turn number 3. Otherwise, real good. 4 tires, a very slight air pressure adjustment, and fuel for Kenseth. Dave.
Brendan Gaughan was running 13th during this cycle. He wants 4 fresh Goodyear tires. He wants a full load of Sunoco fuel and a little something to keep the car from being tight and snapping loose when he runs the high line. It'll be a wedge adjustment and air pressure. The 16 of Brian Reed is also on pit road. He'll get a wedge adjustment. That car was freeing up as the run went on.
Daniel Suarez was also the race leader. He's now on pit road. Kelly?
Been running in the top 5. He says he's a little bit loose on the bottom through the bumps, and it's getting a little snappy on exit and wiggles when he gives it too much wheel. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment for Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for Daniel Suarez. Marty?
Kelly Chase Elliott said the car was much better, especially at the beginning of that run, but I couldn't take much more of the adjustment you guys made last time. It's going to be an air pressure adjustment for that car. It was just a little bit loose. Chase happier on that run. Championship leader Chris Buescher wants 4 fresh Goodyear tires as well as Sunoco fuel. He said I was way too tight on throttle. As he was coming down pit road, Scott Graves said, do you want 1 round up on the track bar? He said make it 1.5. Car got way tighter at the end of that run.
It's really important for our points leader Chris Buescher to be on and off pit road efficiently, because the 3 got caught speeding. And when we talk about the non-chase, 8 weeks left, there's so many ways to hurt yourself in the points. Speeding on pit road, it seems simple. It's going to cost the 3 a lap. Maybe they'll bounce back. Maybe they'll get the wave by, but that's a lot of maybes. You've put yourself in a position where you have to have things go your way now.
Points as they run, and you mentioned Ty Dillon with a pit road speeding penalty. He was too fast coming onto pit road. And Jamie, you said this is a very difficult track to get onto pit road and get slowed down enough so that you're going the right speed when you hit that commitment line.
It is, and again, like I view the pit road thing like I talked about when you run high. It's kind of a risk versus reward. Am I getting ready to go a lap down? So do I need to get everything I can this time, or am I in this position on the track that I know it's going to be difficult to get on pit road? So I'm going to be a little bit conservative right now.
But that's what makes the leader of the race so difficult. Matt Kenseth doesn't have a weakness that I know of. They all do, but he's smooth on the racetrack, great in traffic, great on and off pit road. You know, that veteran driver, I call him a franchise driver. I think he's one of those guys you can build a company around, and he does it because he's really worked hard at all aspects of driving.
Yeah, so Matt, Matt is Matt's my best friend away from the racetrack. We hang out a lot. Our wives are really close. Our kids are close. And I don't know that Matt gets the credit for how hard he drives a car. When you watch Matt, he's like Steve said, he's always so smooth, and I feel like he always looks in control. But when you race with Matt, he races so hard and he drives so hard, and I feel like he's one of the smartest guys on the racetrack at moving around, finding where his car works. I feel like he just does such a good job of getting his car set up, and he doesn't worry about, I feel like, being the fast lap in practice. He worries about getting his car where he wants it, and when the race starts, it's normally right.
Regan Smith able to get by the one of Elliott Sadler. It's funny that you mentioned that, because we always say your name as far as the most underrated drivers. When we bring up drivers and
I always
underrated,
wonder, is that a compliment?
It's a compliment, by the way. It's a compliment.
Go, right?
Definitely a compliment.
It's a compliment unless I'm in charge of your marketing. And I'm supposed to make you seem great, and then maybe it's not a compliment. But I agree. But I think behind the wheel, that's a signature of yours, is that you always seem to find a way to get more out of the race car. Be efficient, not make mistakes. Because in the end, we talk about winning races. There's a long list of ways to lose them.
Absolutely,
a long list. I actually have my own list of all the ones I've lost and all the dumb things I've done. We could maybe after the broadcast we'll go through it. It has an index, a couple chapters.
Well, Matt Kenseth, after green flag pit stops, back out in front. He has just under a 3-second lead over his teammate Kyle Busch. This time it isn't just about being fast. The best Fast and Furious hits home with Furious 7 Extended Edition on Blu-ray and digital HD now. Kenseth with just under 4-second lead over Kyle Busch. Matt Kenseth has led 44 laps tonight. Kyle Busch has led 34 laps. We've run 87 laps of the 200 scheduled, closing in on that halfway point, and the caution has come out. Only 10 cars on the lead lap and it was the one of Elliott Sadler that was about to go a lap down, but more than likely the last scoring loop that they went over, it was Chase Elliott that was the highest scored one lap down car. More than likely he will get the free pass.
You know the big winner? The big winner is Elliott Sadler.
Absolutely.
He came to pit road, thought he had trouble, ended up getting tires sooner, which allowed him to run a bunch of fast laps on the racetrack. He ends up 10th right now. This yellow timing wise, because he didn't have to pit right away, but he's 30 laps into a run. He's probably 20 laps away from having to pit. This timing couldn't have been better for the one Elliott Sadler.
NASCAR did confirm it. The 9 is the free pass car. He will get the free pass. There will be 11 on the lead lap.
And now we're under caution, and pit road is going to be crowded. Just a little bit ago, under green, we saw the 18 of Daniel Suarez try to get into his pit stall. And even on a big pit stall, things can get tight. You'll see as Daniel Suarez tries to turn left into his pit stall, the 66 of Gordon is entering his pit stall. And look how close the pit crew members come to the left front of the 18 of Daniel Suarez. We're on a 1.5 mile racetrack with big pit stalls. That's under green. There's only 2 or 3 cars on pit road. These guys, that is a tough job to have. And now with pit road open and the leaders coming, it's going to be even busier this time.
And we see the 20 of Matt Kenseth lead the lead lap cars onto pit road. Kelly.
Little debate whether or not the 42 would come down pit road, but you see they are, and he is saying he's getting a little bit tighter on the 42. They're going to make a wedge adjustment for him, 4 tires and fuel. The 18 of Daniel Suarez also making his way. He said he was a little bit better on the short run, but it's just getting too tight on the long run. 4 tires for him as well, Mike.
And your leader, Matt Kenseth, saying the car's a little bit more free on that run than it had been previously. They're going to add air to the left front tire. 4 tire change there. He's away. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch saying he needs more right rear grip. Started off very tight during that run. They're also going to tear away part of his tear away on his windshield tear away so he can see a little bit better. The sun has been bothering him.
All 10 cars on the lead lap decided to make their way onto pit road. And you see the race off of pit road. No position change. Sunday night is football night. Live from Green Bay, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks look for their first win of the season when they face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, who won their opener against the Bears. Bob Costas and Dan Patrick host Football Night in America. Coverage beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, only on NBC. So Matt Kenseth Kyle Busch, all of the top 10 that were on the lead lap decided to come onto pit road. There was some differing strategy, though, from the guys that were a lap down, Steve.
We talk about a points battle. Small decisions all through the season make a difference. Both the 3 and the 60 are a lap down, chasing each other in this points battle. The 3 of Ty Dillon decide, you know what? We're going to come down pit road, stay a lap down, put 4 fresh tires on, adjust our car, and try to race for the lucky dog. While the 60 of Chris Buescher, Marty, they decided to stay on the racetrack.
Well, you can add Chase Elliott to that mix, too. They came down to pit as well under that caution, thinking that fresh tires would be the answer to their problems. Ty Dillon, the rationale for that is he said, when I come through traffic, I think I'm going to be very loose. I'm going to need an adjustment. You're riding along board with Chase Elliott right now. And the reasoning for Chris Buescher and Scott Graves, they came on the radio, discussed it. Scott Graves said, I think taking the wave around right here gives us our best shot. Just thinking championship, thinking big picture. It may not win them the race, but they may thank themselves in November, Steve.
Yeah, Marty, I like the wave around choice. I think Scott Graves is making a great decision here. But the 9, Marty, he had the opportunity. He was the lucky dog, so he had the easiest decision because he got a free lap back, came down and got the 4 tires on it. And I know this seems odd. Why are we talking about 3 guys in the back and how are they going to get their lap back? But these are our top 3 in points, Jamie, and it comes down. You know how one different timing on this next caution could change the whole outcome for one of these 3 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And to do the wave around, it feels good if you can get the caution. If you don't and the leaders come and they lap you back, it's really frustrating. But I mean, I think there's a good point to each side. The only thing that's going to hurt Ty Dillon is that he's racing Ryan Blaney, and that's a really good car. And if he doesn't get the lucky dog here, they're going to wish that they had done the wave around.
16, 17 laps on the tires of the guys who did the wave around. So they stayed out. They're going to take the wave around. Their tires 16, 17 laps more than the guys who were able to come to pit road here on this last caution. Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch making up row number 1. Kenseth has chose the inside line. Kyle Busch on the outside. Green flag back in the air.
Gave Matt like a pretty good shove there. Ooh, Kyle's right on the quarter panel though and bogging him down. Matt's wishing he could just clear him by a foot and he could drive away.
Still side by side for the lead. That high line working for Kyle Busch as he powers in front of the 20. Coming out of turn 4, Busch back to the front.
Yeah, that was a big move. I kind of thought that the bottom was going to be better in 3 and 4, but well, Kyle drove it down in there and it stuck. He did a really good job there.
Here comes Daniel Suarez looking on that high side of the 42. Kyle Larson. Larson's trying to hang on to 3rd right now, but Daniel Suarez making the move on the high side. Hasn't cleared him yet, and now he is in front of the 42 as they go into 3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 Gibbs cars, 1, 2, 3. Haven't seen that lately, have we?
They have been strong.
They have been good, yeah.
A little bit of a shove there from Paul Menard in the 33. A little arrow help for the 18 of Daniel Suarez. Still to be determined who's going to hold on to 3rd as they come through 1 and 2. Looks like Suarez will get the nod now. Kyle Larson drops back to 4th. And Paul Menard in 5th.
It's going to seem odd, but watching these cars from new tires to old tires, you can see the lap time because I mean, how hard do they have to drive? They are, I mean, barely getting out of the gas.
Right.
Compared to 20 laps from now, they're going to be all over the racetrack searching for grip. It's just such a wide range over one tire run.
And that's what you drivers want, isn't it? The
Absolutely,
tires wearing out so that it puts more of the driving in your hands.
Well, and I think part of the reason that tires wearing out is so good for our sport is because you get different strategies. And like at Darlington when Carl Edwards stayed out one time and Kyle Busch stayed out, those guys had really good cars and they went from leading to I think Carl might have got lapped in that race.
Fell all the way out of the
So yeah, I mean, tire fall off is, to me, is critical to have really good racing because you get different strategies and you have guys that, you know, the old races at Rockingham and Darlington with the old service, you'd have guys that could just take off for 15 laps and then you'd have a guy that was terrible for 10 or 15 laps and would be good on the long run. And you'd see these, to me, like good races where guys, you'd have like a rabbit at the beginning and then you'd have the guy marching at the end.
When you talk about good races, You know, every run starts with a restart. They've been a topic of conversation for a while here about the restart zone, but I want to go look back farther in the field. It's not just the front of the field. You see here the 51 of Jeremy Clemens. He thinks he needs to be in position. It's very hard. Now we're 4 wide trying to get the scoring figured out. He's going to try to squeeze up the 14, try to get in position there. Cale Conley doesn't want him there. He then hits him in the rear bumper. This is all coming to the green. So I know we focus a lot on the front because that's the leaders and they're supposed to start the race, and that's where the race is won from. But when you get back row 8, 9, 10, 11, it gets hairy back there just trying to get yourself lined up.
I tell when I go do my hospitalities on Sunday mornings, the thing I tell everyone is that the leader is not working near as hard as the guy running 20th, almost going a lap down. The guy in 20th is driving his heart out to try to stay on the lead lap, and the leader typically has a pretty good car and isn't having to give it 100%.
Now we see Kyle Larson trying that high line once again. We were listening into the radio of Ty Dillon earlier, and Ty was told, hey, Kyle Larson's running up near the wall. That's a great line. He's making some really good lap times. And Ty said, I can't go up there because the sun is in my eyes and I can't see well enough to be that close to the wall. And Jamie, you mentioned that. It really, your marks have got to be so precise that Ty Dillon was like, I can't run up there yet because it's too close to the wall and I can't see my marks.
Yeah, and the sun still is bad, but it's only like halfway around the corner now, so I think it's a little bit better. And then once you're exiting, you can see really well. So it's going to get better, I think, throughout the race here. But it's hard when the sun's in your eyes to know your marks. Kyle's committed though. He's committed to both ends, running as high as he can right now.
He's disappointed in the softball right now. That's 30 inches of asphalt that he would use. I mean, he's using every bit of it. I mean, you're going to see right here on board with Brian Scott how he turns to the bottom. And this is the key, right? So when you run the top, from what I understand, you basically have to back your corner up, get up there, and then you pick up the throttle sooner. And this is the payoff. All the way down the front stretch, you're going to watch the 42 leave the 2.
Yeah, you got to let off super early, and then you kind of drive up towards the wall. So you're using the throttle to dictate how high you are going to slide up the racetrack. Where when you run on the bottom, you typically can drive in quite a bit harder and just try to get on the line. But yeah, you'll see Brian Scott here is going to drive in quite a bit harder than Kyle, and you're going to see him gain a little bit right here. But Kyle is wide open right now, like 1 second before Brian Scott. And even though it's further around, he's running significantly faster on exit.
The one thing for sure, Kyle Larson doesn't have a lot of traffic up there because he seems to be the only guy up there.
Oh, very slow for the 22 of Ryan Blaney. Caution has come out once again. Ryan Blaney was
hit the wall really hard. Come down.
Ryan Blaney was running, I think 20th at the time, and a lot of damage to the right side now. He had a left rear tire that had gone down early in this race. It put him into the wall.
That's a bad day. I hate that for him. He's had a tough weekend.
Bad weekend, yeah. I mean, Ryan Blaney, who was driving for Wood Brothers, had a very fast car on Friday, and with qualifying getting rained out, they weren't able to make the field. So he was going to be doing the double.
He's done a really good job in that Cup car.
All right, here. To the garage. I like that. Let's go to the garage. Try to get it fixed up. You're on board here with Blaney.
Oh, I think he cut a tire down or something, maybe a right front.
And right into the sun, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough weekend. He's done such a good job in the Cup car, and they've gotten rained out, I think, 3 of the races with it. I think they were in like the top 10 in practice, and the rain came just at the wrong time. He's done a really good job. That car, the Cup car, and in the truck he's driving.
So the strategy we talked about earlier with Ty Dillon and the 3 coming to pit road, getting 4 fresh tires and making the commitment to try to get the free pass, it's worked out. He's going to get the free pass.
So listen, now we have a winner and a winner. The 3 got the
they're
lucky
both
dog.
happy.
The difference, though,
but he has older tires.
He has older tires, and Chris Buescher hasn't used that set yet.
That's right.
So Chris Buescher, he's got his taking the wave around. He's been on the lead lap this whole time. He's going to pit right now here. The leaders are going to pit maybe for fuel, maybe not, but they're not putting tires on here. The 60 of Chris Buescher, he's coming to pit road, and he's going to have fresh tires. And it's not just him. It's Chris Buescher, Brendan Gaughan, Ryan Reed, John West Townley. A wave of these cars took the wave by, and now they're in position. This is how we start to see split strategies. The 9 who's trying to chase the 60 in the points also on pit road.
He's coming for fuel only, I bet.
I think you're right. Absolutely.
Or 2 spots. Come on down.
Right here. 2 spots.
And we talked about at the top of the show with this 9 car. Ernie Cope promised, I'm going to do some split strategy at some point. You see them taking no tires but fuel, and that wedge adjustment for Chase Elliott has said his car has been much better, a little tight through the center of the corner though. And for Chris Buescher, the championship leader, he also hits pit road here. They're going to take fuel, and they do take 4 fresh tires. So we'll see if those good years pay off for Chris Buescher.
That's the difference between the Lucky Dog and the Wave Around. This isn't Sprint Cup. Limited tires on the Xfinity side.
Chris Buescher back out on track. Welcome back to the Furious 7 300 from Chicagoland Speedway. One of the chase contenders, actually, excuse me, not chase contenders, but title contenders. Chris Buescher had too many men over the wall, or too quickly for the 60. They left too early on that pit stop. And so because they were out of or on their pit stall too soon, there's a penalty for the 60. So another mistake by one of the title contenders. Chris Buescher has a pass-through penalty for that. And because of, obviously, the caution coming out, we have restart once again. And that has been a topic of discussion over this last week as the restart zone. Guys, take us through it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, there's a zone which the leader has to start the race in. The first line, it's right here on the apron. It coincides with the double red line on the wall. The leader, when he gets to that yellow line, has the opportunity to go. Now, he has to leave before the second line, which is basically between that white line on the apron and that red line on the wall, thus creating a zone for the leader to start in. But what we've seen is people are trying to be aggressive and leave before the first line.
Right, and so, you know, when we first had some issues with restarts, it was about the second place guy beating the first place guy to the line. And I think that NASCAR has done a really good job in using good judgment in when you're the guy in second, all you want to do is just maintain. You don't want the leader to take off and you spin your tires and you come out in third or fourth. So I think they've done a really good job with using a good judgment if the second place guy happens to barely beat the leader to the line. But what's happening now, and everyone does it, you take off before the first line. If you wait to the first line, the guy in second will have the advantage. And it's, you know, the same thing. Matt did it at Richmond last week. I mean, he's led the whole race, and the caution comes out with 20 to go.
he has the 43 behind him, so he knows he has to beat him to turn.
He's not going to wait till the middle of that zone to take off, or he's going to get beat. I think what most of us in the garage would like to see there is just super consistency from NASCAR's side, where, like, you know, I watched the truck race at Bristol, and when I saw Ryan Blaney get penalized, I'm like, oh man, they're really going to crack down. To me, Matt kind of did the same thing. He did do the same thing. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's what we want to know, is that if we jump it, you're going to get penalized.
And NASCAR is talking to all 3 series this weekend. They've talked to the drivers and crew chiefs throughout the week. They've actually added a camera that is focused solely on that restart zone, so that they can make a better decision as to if someone does jump the restart.
Right, and we talked about it because if you do go back to Richmond, when we talked to NASCAR about it, they said the problem they have is when you look at it from different angles, you kind of get a different view.
Absolutely.
So you see right here, here's the leader, Matt Kenseth. He's been leading the whole race. As he rolls up, remember, it's that white line on the bottom of the racetrack right there. Matt Kenseth is not supposed to accelerate before there. It looks to me like he accelerates a good car 2 lengths early. But when you look at from this one, you have to ask yourself, is he accelerating? Is the 22 not? There's a lot of judgment.
There's a lot of variables that go into that. Absolutely.
So I applaud NASCAR. A, I'm glad I'm not the guy making the decision. But B, they said, you know what? Instead of depending on other situations and other angles, they're going to put a camera where they feel it suits the view the best. That, to your point, they want to be consistent. So if that's what they need to be consistent, that camera will feed the tower right away. And then Steve O'Donnell, Mike Helton, all the powers to be can then make a decision on the restart.
And they have said that what they will do is they will say on the radio, we are reviewing the restart, which means there might be a penalty, there might not, but we're going to review it and let all the teams know. And we're getting ready for a restart here at Chicagoland in the Xfinity Series. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, 1 and 2. And we're back to green. Kyle Busch chose the outside line for that restart.
And you see the advantage Kyle Larson get, just like you said, Jimmy. He kind of rolled up into that restart zone, had a little momentum, pulled down, and he's going to clear Daniel Suarez easily through 1 and 2, although Daniel's going to cross him over and try to get to the bottom of him down the backstretch.
Doesn't have the momentum, as the 2 of Brian Scott has kept the momentum up. He's up in the top 5 now.
Boy, Casey Kane's trying to make the top work. You got to give him some credit. He is committed to that from on the restarts everywhere. It just doesn't seem like his car has enough speed around the top.
And once again, we see that time it was Matt Kenseth that went all the way down to the apron again and almost to the grass. Is there an advantage going down there?
Well, it's a shorter distance. I think a lot of time you see guys do it, they're either trying to draft on the guy in front of them or maybe break the draft on the car behind. I don't know if it's an advantage, but it makes you feel good.
Like A for effort.
Right. This is going to make Daniel Suarez feel good. He went right by Paul Menard. A great move.
When you talk about momentum, that was the perfect example. Daniel Suarez ran up a little bit in 1 and 2, got a great run, cleared Kyle Larson, used that momentum to turn left, get underneath Paul Menard. I was actually impressed though he could clear him running the bottom and kind of get away from him.
Yeah, you know, we talked about him at the beginning, and we haven't really talked about him during the race, but he's done a great job. I mean, he's been shuffled back on the restarts, but he's fought back. He's done a really good job today.
Look who he's competing against right now. He's competing against Chase Driver and Kyle Busch, a Chase Driver and Matt Kenseth, Paul Menard, Chase Driver, and Kyle Larson. I mean, 4 Cup guys, and he's right there in the top 5 running right with them.
Yeah, he's doing another really good job today. I like it too because he's moving around. He's not just committed to the bottom, or he's not just running the middle. Like, you watch him, he's moving around. He's doing a fantastic job today.
And now Kyle Larson is closing the gap between he and the 18.
Yeah, Kyle drove down in there like maybe he was trying to maybe pack some air on him, maybe pay him back for something that we didn't see earlier.
Got a little bit closer, and then the gap separated. But he is staying on his back bumper.
Suarez is also, it looks like he's doing a nice job of somewhat backing his corner up because Kyle's driving in deeper, but the 18 can get turned and drive off a little bit better.
How much of this first year is trying to earn respect from your competitors for a guy like Daniel Suarez, who has never raced against most of these drivers? As we see Chris Buescher and Chase Elliott, 2 of the top 3 in the points, fighting for position, and there's Ty Dillon right back there with them.
They can't get away from each other.
The biggest thing I see is they're running 15th, 16th, and 17th. And listen, I know how hard it is to run these races, and I'm not trying to knock any of these teams or any of these drivers, but somebody is going to have to go take this championship today because the opportunity's right here. The door is wide open. You know, they don't have a single car in the top 10. They're barely holding on to the top 15, Marty, and yet they're still all racing one another.
And Steve, this is fun to watch all these championship guys. You think of Chris Buescher, he did take tires on that last stop. Restarted 20th, trying to make his way back up through the field. Behind him, Ty Dillon back on the lead lap. His dad, Mike Dillon, said on the radio several times, you got to keep your head in the game right now and focus on trying to get back to the front. And how about Chase Elliott? Just made a great save. We saw that a moment ago. His car has been getting better all evening long. They too, back on the lead lap, got the lucky dog a moment ago. But they had a very tough position in practice, Steve. And I'm sure you've been in this before, Jamie, too. He got out of the car after qualifying, and they told him you qualified 17th. He said, what? No way. The car drove great. It just didn't have speed. That is a tough position for a crew chief and driver to be in, isn't it, Steve? When the car drives almost perfect, but there's no speed in it, right?
It's a tough position, and it's very easy to get some frustration between driver and crew chief because the crew chief wants it to go fast. As you see Brendan Gaughan here racing Elliott Sadler, and the driver wants it to go fast, but it's easier when you have something to work on. When you don't have something to work on, it seems like it's easier to get frustrated with one another.
Yeah, you know, and honestly, I've never had a successful or a good finish with a car that I said it drives really good, it's just not fast. Normally, when it doesn't drive good and you have a good lap time is when you end up having a good race. So that's a really frustrating day for Chase, and I'm watching him here. He's really trying to work some lines and find some speed, but his car this particular run is just not there.
It's no different than golf, Rick. That 3-foot gimme putt that your buddies give you all day long, it doesn't really get your attention until it matters. Until you're on 18 and the game's on the line, then that putt gets way difficult. That's what these guys have done. They've raced their entire lives. They know all about racing, but here it is. An Xfinity champion is going to be decided in 8 weeks. It makes every decision much tougher.
A little bit of rubbing and racing between the 16 and the 2. Ryan Reed and Brian Scott. Take a look at this close racing. It's a little bumping.
Wheel to wheel.
This isn't short track racing.
And you see the 2, he's coming up the racetrack, and he's all the way up against the fence right here, but it almost looks like he starts to straighten the straightaway out at a different rate than maybe the 16 thought he was going to.
That was apparent for sure. they definitely didn't agree on where each other was going, but I think Brian probably was coming down and going to try to take some air off of the 16 and then get back away from me, but the 16 had the same idea, and they ended up touching there.
Kyle Busch has now been in front of the field for 60 laps. Matt Kenseth 49 laps led. We go NASCAR nonstop. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And by X1 from XFINITY. Change the way you experience TV. Let's see who's topping the Xfinity speed charts from Chicagoland. Of course, it would have to be Kyle Busch. Lap 110. His average lap speed 178.16 miles an hour. Kenseth second, Suarez, Brian Scott, Regan Smith the top 5. And Kyle Larson on the high side going by the 18 of Daniel Suarez.
You know, it's like you talked, Jimmy. The 42 of Kyle Larson has committed to the top where he's okay on new tires, but as the laps get worn on these tires, it really starts to show up as an advantage.
And his visibility is getting significantly better in turn 3.
That's right. His son not playing as big of a role now as he's closing the gap on Paul Menard, who's in front of him. That'll be for 3rd.
And you're going to see the difference right here about running even just a lane above the 33 of Paul Menard, trying to get to the throttle sooner, carry that momentum down the backstretch. I don't call it the back straight because there's really nothing straight about back there. Yeah.
This would be the sister track to Kansas, which you guys visit twice a year, and will be one of the chase races a little bit later in the season.
Yeah, a little different surface at Kansas. They repaved that not long ago, and it has lost some grip, but it has significantly more grip than what Chicago does.
We mentioned earlier the bumps and the kind of the character of this racetrack. Are we seeing that affect this racing right now, or because of the lines that people are running?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you don't see the cars bounce around as much as it feels like in the car. However, if you watch Kyle's car when it gets right in the middle of 3 and 4, you see it bounce, and there's a little bit of a nervous feeling when you're trying to commit to the throttle and you get to that point where it bounces. You want to hope that the front is turned good enough that it doesn't push up into the wall right there.
And the guy out front, Kyle Busch, this is what they had to say on the radio just moments ago.
Or the next run will have to be the longest run of the day. Do I still need to give you a little more right rear security for a long run? I'm starting to close in. The front tires on exit a little bit right now. Yeah, keep track what it does this run here, because now you got 3 and 4 is all shade, and 1 and 2 is going to be all shade, and a couple light patches in.
So now they're talking about the sun on the racetrack and how it's affecting the handling. The track really, a lot of times when we come to a racetrack, you'll see a groove, a dark area around the turns. Yeah. But here at Chicago, it seems like the whole track is getting darker.
You know, it's not as dark as what I remember it being here, and I think some of that has to do with what Goodyear can build the tires of now. I think that the EPA limits them on some of the products they can put in the tire, and that makes it difficult for us to build a tire that actually, you know, lays the rubber down. You can see it's dark, but I remember a few years ago, like it almost getting black here when it got really rubbered up.
And we saw a little wiggle out of Daniel Suarez in the 18. Had to catch it as he's trying to catch the 33 of Paul Menard. Kyle Larson's been able to get by him. Kyle Busch still leading. We go NASCAR nonstop. Caution is out for debris on the racetrack, so lead lap cars making their way onto pit road. Let's go to Kelly Stavis.
Now Larson will pit from the 3rd position. He's been tight, especially bad on the short run. He said he needs to be freed up a little bit. They're going to take half a round of wedge out of the right rear. 4 Goodyear tires for Kyle Larson. Mike?
Crew Chief Mike Wheeler has opted to make very few adjustments on the 20 car throughout the evening. However, they're going to make a chassis adjustment here because Matt Kenseth's been saying he's been a bit tight off. A track bar adjustment, 4 tires and fuel. Meanwhile, Paul Menard says this is the best his car has been all night. They've made several big swings throughout the course of the evening. It's paid dividends. Your 54 car of Kyle Busch, the race off pit road, it looks like he may have won it. No changes to his car. He's real happy right now.
Absolutely. Regan Smith gains a spot. Darrell Wallace Jr. a spot. 67 laps to go. Nobody can stretch it all the way 67, can they, Steve?
You know, my initial answer is no. But, man, I've seen a lot of guys do crazy things. As you see right here, Kyle Busch beats Matt Kenseth. That's the race off pit road right at the camera. Kyle Larson. So 67 to go. Maybe not. Depends on how many yellows we get from now until then.
Got a restart coming up when we come back. There is beautiful downtown Chicago, the Windy City. We are about 30 miles to the southwest of downtown Chicago. We're at Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois. Sun setting on this racetrack and just 65 laps to go. Out front, it's Kyle Busch. He's going to choose the outside line again for the restart. Matt Kenseth will be in the front row with him. Kyle Larson, Paul Menard, Daniel Suarez, Regan Smith, Darrell Wallace Jr., Brendan Gaughan, Chris Buescher and Elliott Sadler, the top 10 as we get ready for the restart.
Yeah, this will be exciting. New tires. Be curious to see if Kyle Larson elects to push Matt or if he decides to do what he did to Daniel Suarez on the last restart.
Go back to the stripe, and we're back under green. And they fan out to 4 and 5 wide as they get ready to go into turn 1.
I think Matt's going to beat him off turn 2.
Kenseth takes the lead down the backstretch.
That's big because Kyle was able to, get by him on the outside of 3 and 4 the last time. So that's a big restart from Matt because we're down to 62 laps to go. This will be a good race here with the 54 trying to get back around him.
Kyle Busch normally so great on restarts and was fighting for that second spot with Kyle Larson now, but we see Paul Menard moving up behind the 54, almost giving him a little bit of a shove there, and the 54 is going to move up to second.
And the points battle's heating up as we look back there about the 5th and 6th position. The 3 of Ty Dillon moved up a little bit on that restart. The 60 of Chris Buescher. Everyone's on even tires now, so now we're going to see which car has the better one with the top 3 in the points.
Top 5 spread out nose to tail. Kenseth, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, Paul Menard.
A lot of wiggling. Seems like there's a lot more free race cars here now that the sun's gone down.
Yeah, it seemed like for years when I first started racing, when the sun went down, you always got tighter. I remember Bristol night race, you always got tighter. The rubber laid down, the sun went down. Now when the sun goes down, it's guaranteed to get looser at just about every track we go to.
0-1 took the free pass, or had the free pass. The 43 and the 8 chose the wave around to get back to the lead lap. This last restart. The 20 car has won multiple times, 4 times this year. 3 of those were won with Denny Hamlin behind the wheel, and the other one, Eric Jones, got the win for the 4 wins, and now the 20 back out front. Kyle Busch, on the other hand, won here in June, or excuse me, the 54 that Kyle Busch is driving won here in June with Eric Jones behind the wheel of that car. So we saw a very close call there between Kyle Larson and Daniel Suarez.
And this is what I want to see. I want to see Kyle Larson closer to the leaders sooner.
Yeah,
what I mean, like Jamie,
oh, hang on,
sideways. Oh my goodness,
42.
That's not going to help him stay closer. But every restart he goes to the back or back some and has to come back to the front. And right here you can see Suarez. I'm impressed. He drove it right into the quarter panel there.
Yeah. The lap before Suarez got underneath Kyle, and Kyle let him go, but Daniel didn't know that, so he drove in there about 10 car lengths too deep, and Kyle turned to get to the bottom, and the 18 washed up the track. But yeah, they're having a really good race right there. Kyle's car obviously looks pretty free based on that last corner.
Free, that's a good word. Yep. And it looks as though the 01, the engine's gone south on that car.
Save gas. Save gas. That's what I'm yelling to my driver.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the caution coming out and guys outside of the fuel window, and you see smoke coming out of Mike Harmon's 74. So does anyone come to pit road, or are you just saving fuel and wanting to stay out on the racetrack to hold your track position?
Well, I think you have to look now that there's 22 cars in the lead lap. Chase Elliott back in 15th, Ryan Reed in 16th. They perhaps think we're not going to lose a lot of track position if we come to pit road now, top off our fuel tanks. We're going to be better on fuel with 58 to go. Maybe we're sure we can make it. The leaders, though, they're going to have to make a decision. I don't think you can pit. This is what the reason is for the caution right here. You see the smoke. Never a good sign.
Billowing out of the 01.
Engine has expired. So now the leaders have to decide. If anyone up there is even close, you're saving gas all you can right here, thinking you're going to make it. We're really going to see who has what, though, because when they open these pits in a lap or two, it's going to be stressful. It's way better talking about it. just to clear that up. It's way better because right now I'd be on the calculator, and when you do the calculator and you get the decimal wrong, stress levels rising.
Well, and
I want to jump into the cockpit of the 54 and listen into the radio of Kyle Busch as far as if they should pit or not.
That's 4 green on tires. If we pit here, we can make it to the end on fuel. I don't see anybody putting on tires here with only 4 green, though. Yeah, know what you mean. Come in, top it off, you're saying? Yep, 10-4.
So there you have it.
I mean, he is a dominant car. I think if they know they can't make it, you have to pit now. Because You can't, even if,
especially if you can make it if you stop. Like, you have to stop.
If you know this is your window and you cannot make it from your last stop, because I think there's guys that aren't going to come in. I really think that Darrell Wallace Jr. and Chris Buescher back there in 8th and 9th, we saw Chris Buescher do it at Bristol. Daniel Suarez ran 102, almost 103 miles at Darlington. He only had to run barely over 100 miles here. It's not, while it is a stretch, we didn't even think. We did the racing.
Right.
You asked me point blank, well, can Daniel Suarez make it? No. Well, maybe. Well, apparently
when you slow down that much,
it's going to be harder to save fuel, though, because it's getting faster.
Yeah.
And those cars are pretty draggy. And, like a Cup car, you can push the clutch in, you can coast. There's a lot of things you can do. I was talking to Kyle earlier because the trucks are really draggy as well. And he's like, man, when you try to save gas in a truck, he's like, you let off the gas, it stops. He's like, you got to give it gas to get going again. So it'll be a little harder to save gas here because the track's getting faster, but they have good fuel mileage.
And you mentioned earlier the sun's down now. Earlier we're inside the 60 car. He had all of that shading up in the window to help him protect the sun. Now that the sun's all the way down, here it is, just like you mentioned. The sun's... He's going to go ahead and take that tear off.
Still closed.
Well, I say simple as that. It looks like it's working pretty well. I definitely want to do it under yellow.
I don't do that anymore because I have pulled on that before and my little tab come off, and then I just have duct tape hanging in front of me. I'm never doing that again.
Chase Elliott doing the same thing, and here they come. Pit road was open, and Kenseth,
6 stayed out.
Kyle Busch decided that they would come onto pit road. Kelly.
The 42 of Kyle Larson calling an audible. They were going to keep him out. Now they're coming in for fuel only. He's just been tight. Said he was plowing on that last run. And you see Daniel Suarez there on your upper right hand as well. It's going to be fuel only for him as well.
Matt Kenseth, fuel only as well. Splash and ease away. Same thing with the 54. A couple of very quick pit stops down here at the end of pit road.
And the 42 of Kyle Larson got bottled up. It gets so tight in there in some of those stalls. Kyle Larson had to stop, so he lost 4 spots on pit road. Regan Smith gained 2. We'll be back for the restart. Chase for the Sprint Cup revs up tomorrow on NBCSN. First race of the NASCAR playoffs, the myafibrisc.com 400 live coverage starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern from here at Chicagoland Speedway. We know the 42 of Kyle Larson didn't make it into the chase, but he will be fighting for his first win in the Cup Series. He was running strong here, battling in the top 3, but on pit road, when it gets so tight, it's difficult when they do these gas-only stops.
Absolutely. When you do gas-only, everybody's still coming in. When you go to leave, Jamie, it's very unfortunate they lost positions, but great they didn't damage maybe the right front fender or the right side door.
Yeah, and so Kyle's also pitted at the back of pit road, and that's the only downside. You get all these cars back on the lead lap from the wave around. when he's leaving a stall, somebody that's not running up front is coming in, and it's just part of it. I always feel like when I'm coming down pit road that it's my responsibility if I'm coming in not to hit the guy leaving his stall, because you know they're doing fuel only, you know if they're doing 2 tires, you can kind of tell when you're coming down pit road. So I mean, but that's part of racing, and that's what it makes it frustrating, and it's just part of it.
So we want to take a look at the Chase grid for tomorrow's race, the first race of the Chase for the 2015 championship. And as I look there in those 16 names, I see the guy sitting next to me, Jamie McMurray, seated 12th. How are you feeling about your first Chase?
I only got to make 12 points up. That seems pretty easy, right?
Seems easy, right?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
Well, listen, only 4 get eliminated, so really you just don't have to lose a point to the guys behind you. You're in good shape.
Well, and that's honestly my outlook at the first 3 races. We've been in the top 10 in points all year long. We just need to go do exactly what we've been doing all season long. And if we do that, we'll make it to the next round. I think when you get to the second round, you see who's eliminated. Where there are 2 or 3 of the good cars that got wrecked, blew a motor up, had something go wrong, and they're eliminated, then that changes, to me, the outlook for the next few races. So I'm excited to get to be a part of it. We've got probably the best intermediate car we've had all year long this weekend. That our team has worked so hard on the aero side, on the mechanical side, the chassis, doing everything. Hendrick Motorsports has given us better engines this weekend. So we honestly have probably the best intermediate car we've had all year long.
Do you like the mix of tracks in the first round? You know, we go a 1 mile flat track, 1 mile high bank, and a 1.5 mile track here.
I'll let you know after about 3 or 4 races what I think of those.
I like that. That's a good response.
Well, you've continued to have a great outlook, and your first Chase, we wish you luck in that, obviously. As we're getting ready for the final 53 laps from here at Chicagoland in the Xfinity Series.
I predict 4 wide.
It's going to happen quick. Darrell Wallace Jr., Brian Scott making up row number 1. Darrell Wallace Jr. on the bottom of the track. Brian Scott up high. And going into turn number 1. Oh, it is going to be 4 wide behind the top 2. They fight for that lead.
Kyle Larson, we saw him get blocked into the pits when he went to the wall there, Jamie. He's going to try to get them all back in one corner.
Oh, that worked out.
Another one, didn't it? Maybe potentially kissing the wall there as they were getting ready to go into one.
Saw some smoke come off. I thought it was 42, but maybe not. Yeah,
they're still side by side for the lead. Brian Scott gets the nod by 21/1000ths of a second, and he's able to push out front. Those 2. Darrell Wallace Jr. was 8th when the caution came out. Brian Scott was 10th, and now, because they stayed on the track, Brian Scott has the track position and the lead here at Chicagoland.
I kind of thought Kyle Busch had got hung out and was going to struggle there, but he's already back up to 3rd, so that worked out all right for him.
Darrell Wallace Jr. has dropped back now, losing a spot to Daniel Suarez in the 18. Matt Kenseth coming strong now as he looks to the outside of Brian Scott. He'll try to take the lead away as they go out of turn 2. Can't do it coming out of 2. Down the backstretch they go. Kenseth takes that higher line. Brian Scott trying to hug the white line on the bottom of the track. He'll lose the lead. Kenseth out in front.
It's a good pass. Brian did all he could trying to hold Matt up, but I mean, it's the 2 best cars are in 1st and 3rd right now. I mean, they've been the best cars all night long, so Brian's doing all he can, but 54 and 20 have been really solid all night.
And yeah, let's just remind the fans at home, they don't have better tires than Brian Scott. While they were in pit road, they just put gas only, so they have about 11 laps more fuel for Brian Scott, but not better tires. They really just, to your point, unfortunately, have had better race cars. They've had better race cars since the drop of the green flag.
This will be another good race with Matt Kenseth will become much harder to pass in the last 50 here than what he was earlier in the race. So this will be a good race down to the end.
Side by side, Paul Menard on the inside of Daniel Suarez. Ty Dillon, one of our top 3 title contenders.
We had a lot of activity on that restart. There was a lot of people trying to get position, trying to move up through the field as soon as they could. We knew that the 54 and the 20 had to go. Ty Dillon, another guy in the points race. Every car he passes is a point as he clears Daniel Suarez here.
Ty Dillon has done a really good job all year long. Like when I watch these races, I feel like I look up and he's struggling. And then you look up right at the end and all of a sudden they've had good pit strategy. He's gotten a good restart at the end. And they put themselves in a good position at the end. And that's really what's kept him in this championship.
The poor 22, he's had a a rough day. He got in the wall in that restart. The 7 of Regan Smith. I spoke to his crew chief, Jason Burdett, this morning, and statistically, this is not a good track.
It's been a bad track for him, hasn't it?
They just, something about it, and they said coming here that they made a point, like, we got to change that mindset. We have to come here thinking we're going to run well. And while he's running 9th, and that's not his goal, he wants to run higher than 9th. He's the highest running JRM car, the Junior Motorsports cars, and Casey Kane's in the 88. So he only has 1 top 10 here. So, you know, at this point, anything near the top 10 is he makes a nice move on your Daniel Suarez. Kind of like a moral victory.
Yeah, and he hit the wall earlier, so his car is not 100% at this point. They've worked on it a little bit, probably under each pit stop, but he's having a good night. I'm shocked because after how well we saw all of the Junior Motorsports cars run at Richmond last week, it seemed like they've been running better every single week. I know that like on our side, Hendricks has done a really good job at getting the engines better. Our engines now on the Cup side are closer to the XFINITY engines with the tapered spacer. I'm like, man, I bet when we get here, the Junior Motorsports cars are going to be really good, but they just haven't had the speed that they've needed tonight.
And they're going up against really the best team right now in NASCAR. I mean, Joe Gibbs Racing has been as strong on both the XFINITY side and the Cup side as any team can be. And right now running 1 and 2 with Kenseth and Kyle Busch, but we continue to see this battle between Daniel Suarez. You see Kenseth out front. He's got about a 7/10 of a second lead over Kyle Busch. But Daniel Suarez, the 7 of Regan Smith, got by the 18, but Suarez has been able to stay right on his back bumper.
Yeah, we see here on the restart, he's 3rd in line on the bottom, and we're going to see right here the 54 leaves Suarez a little bit of room. Right here, he's basically up to his left rear tire, but the 54 is not going to have any part of it. He comes down, squeezes the 18 down. My question is, Jamie, did he do that because he knew it was a teammate, or?
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing.
What do you think? You can't.
I'm guessing that Kyle knew it was his teammate back there, and when you're in the car, he's probably looking more to the outside than he was to knowing Daniel's behind him. Maybe he thought he was going to push him a little bit more. It's hard to say exactly what Kyle was thinking, but I'm guessing that when he looked up in his mirror, he knew it was Daniel behind him coming to the green. He's like, okay, I'm probably safe here. He's not going to make me 2 or 3 wide. But Kyle left a car and a half on the bottom, and the 18 had a good run, so you can't blame him for it.
20 of Matt Kenseth comes out of turn number 4 and will cross the start-finish line. 42 laps to go. Let's go through the field. We start with Mike.
You know, Rick, talking with his crew chief, Mike Wheeler, earlier this weekend, he was pretty surprised to realize that Matt had never won an Xfinity Series race here at the Chicagoland Speedway. But he does know he's won a Sprint Cup Series race here, so he has complete confidence in his driver. As for Matt and his race car, he's been saying something that's been a little bit different than most drivers out here. He's been saying his car has been tight. Doesn't seem like it's affecting him all that much right now. Meanwhile, his teammate, Kyle Busch, just the opposite. He's been loose throughout the course of the evening. So much, in fact, that they've made serious adjustments to that race car. In fact, 7 rounds of wedge have been put in that race car since the drop of the green flag tonight. It's finally giving Kyle the security he needs, but he knows he needs to chase down his teammate, Kelly.
Brian Scott and this 2 team have made 2 big gambles tonight. Remember, 2 tires early in this race to gain track position, and now they stayed out while others came in for fuel only. They're banking on another caution. His crew chief said it'd be ideal if it came with about 20 laps to go. He has 6 top 10s here, more than any other track. He said it just suits his driving style. He likes attacking the corners. He thinks he's got a good line figured out here, and he likes running that high line. And now you see the 42 of Kyle Larson making a move to get around Brian Scott. He's doing triple duty this weekend. He already ran the truck race this morning. He finished 7th after gambling on fuel there. He'll start the Cup race tomorrow, 18th, after that qualifying was canceled. Right now in the 3rd spot here. He's been dealing with a tight car all night, and he said it's a type of tightness he's never experienced before. It's especially bad on the short run, Marty.
Kelly, I get it out, I promise. Darrell Wallace Jr. tested here a couple of weeks ago. It felt like they were very good, but yesterday in practice, they were not very good. Changed the setup completely overnight, and they have been much better today. I asked Seth Barber about the decision to stay out. He said, we felt like we had nothing to lose. Give them some track condition, and it's worked for them. They were running about 8th when they stayed out. Now they're in 5th, Mike.
You know, Marty, when practice ended Danny Stockman, the crew chief on the 33 car for Paul Menard, said, look, we don't have the fastest car here, but it's a lot like Road America. We didn't feel like we had the best car there either. We just out-strategized and out-raced the competition. That's what we feel like we can do tonight. They've made significant gains, big swings on this race car throughout the evening, and it has come to life, although they've got plenty of work to do. Marty?
Mike, as Jamie mentioned a moment ago, Ty Dillon having a nice recovery after that speeding penalty earlier today. They've worked their way back up to the 7th position here for that 3 car. He's having a little bit of trouble behind his teammate Paul Menard. He said, as soon as I get to Menard, I absolutely lose the nose. So they told him on the radio, we'll go where the 33 is not. That's why you see that 3 car down low while that 33 is up in the middle lane. Kelly?
Daniel Suarez and the 18 team have really turned a corner, especially in terms of communication. As crew chief Eric Phillips said, they're starting to understand each other. The language barrier between Spanish and English has dissipated a bit, especially as they come to grips with some of the slang used in this sport. Daniel himself becoming much more relaxed around the team. Personalities coming out now, and he said he even jokes around a lot more. Right now, though, he's dealing with a super tight car on exit, Dave.
Pursuant to the Letarte-Burdett conversation about the 7 car, I spoke with Jason and asked him about running the race at this time of day. He said, I think it'll be good for us. Our best runs so far this year were earlier in the year when it was cooler at race time. As for the 62 of Brendan Gaughan, he's had a good run so far tonight, but on the last run, got caught on the high line and couldn't get low where he needed to prevent himself from being passed by other cars. He restarted in the 13th position. And Elliott Sadler has put on his final set of tires, Superman. After he did that, he restarted in the 18th position and has driven all the way up to 11th. His run to the front is kind of stalled right there, but a good turnaround from problems earlier today, Marty.
Dave, Chris Buescher told me earlier today, we're going to be aggressive, but we have to watch point. The thing we can't have is a mistake. They had that earlier. They came over the wall too early. The pit crew did. That cost them. They've rallied back to the 12th position now, but he just said on the radio, I don't think we're doing a very good job of keeping up with the track. Car too loose. Kelly?
Casey Kane had a disappointing qualifying effort. He said he was just way too loose, but he was optimistic for his car in race trim tonight. He said his biggest challenge this weekend is that he has not run a 1.5 mile track in an Xfinity car since Charlotte. It's been difficult to get the setup right. Right now, he's too loose on exit, Dave.
Fuel only for Ryan Reed on the last run. This Roush Fenway driver had his best qualifying effort of 10th on any track other than a restrictor plate track since Charlotte in May. It's been a tough night for him, though, trying to work with a car that's been tough to turn, Mike.
John West Townley had a little altercation with the wall, scrubbed it in qualifying, but didn't seem to affect the car all that much. It's been driving pretty well. In fact, in his appearances here at the Chicagoland Speedway, he's never finished better than 21st. He's doing better than that now, Marty.
Mike, Chase Elliott right behind him in the 16th position. He said at the top of the show, I'm not very good at math, but if we're going to win this championship, we have to beat the 60 car every week. Right now, they are behind Chris Buescher in that 60 car on this run, still struggling with the race car. Way too loose in, too tight in the middle, and way too loose off. Rick?
Yeah, Marty, and the other thing that they've got to worry about is all the 1.5 mile tracks that are still on the schedule before that champion is crowned, because this could end up being Chase Elliott's 3rd straight finish outside the top 10 on a 1.5 mile track, and 5 of the last 7 races are on 1.5 mile tracks.
You know, listen, we talked about this just last week on the Sprint Cup side because the chase was set and we eliminated cars, and we talk about just a few points, right? What did you do in 26 weeks? Well, these guys, when they get to Homestead, when Chase Elliott gets to Homestead and Chris Buescher gets to Homestead, and we look at the point gap, if Chase Elliott runs 16th, he has to circle this as a race where he lost points. This team, to be a champion, has to expect to run better than 16th.
Yeah. And right now, Chase Elliott running 16th. Matt Kenseth still has almost a second lead over Kyle Busch as we go NASCAR nonstop. Gorgeous view of Chicagoland Speedway. Tonight's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. It's always great racing under the lights, especially here as we come down to the final races of the 2015 season. Matt Kenseth still out in front of Kyle Busch. Kyle was closing the gap, but came upon some of the slower cars on the track and had to decide where to go.
Yeah, so Matt's been running the very bottom. The lap traffic has given him a little bit of room. Kyle's running all the way against the fence, and you see him get a huge run. The 13 doesn't know which way to go. He doesn't know whether I give him the bottom or give him the top. That one move cost Kyle about a half second. And now I think what you've seen is Matt knew that the 54 was coming.
Fast.
And he's moved up to Kyle's line. He's going to try to make the top work right here.
Race for the lead, though. We've got Kyle Busch working the bottom of the track. Can he take it away from Matt Kenseth? Side by side, they go into one.
Yeah, Matt, they were going to try. I thought Matt was going to try to use that lap car to pin Kyle down, but 54 drove in there and was able to clear him. But Matt's fighting back right here. This is a great race.
Here comes Kenseth to the inside. And once again, some of the other cars on the track are going to play into this. Kenseth back in front of Kyle Busch. Now Kyle Busch all over the back bumper, and he'll look to the inside to take the lead away.
So Matt made sure he didn't give Kyle the outside right there because he wants to be able to hug down on Kyle's quarter and not let him do just what he did right there, clear him.
Not let him clear him, but the last time he did it, Kenseth was able to come back to the inside and take the lead back away. This time, there's a car link between the two as they enter three.
Yeah, the 54 just is a little bit better on the long run than what the 20 is.
23 laps to go when they come to the stripe, 22 left. Kyle Busch has been out front 79 laps. Matt Kenseth 84 laps. That's 80 laps led now for Kyle Busch. Kyle has won here 3 times before. Back in 2013, starting from the pole like he did last night or tonight, he won this race.
And you know who wants these two to get back side by side is Kyle Larson. He was 6 seconds behind, 5.5 seconds behind in third. We saw just a little quick battle between the leaders, and he closes into 3 seconds. But now that Kyle Busch is clear of Matt Kenseth, I'm afraid the 3 seconds is going to grow again.
Kyle Busch out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He and his brother both racing at the top level of NASCAR.
Yeah, the 20 car looks like he's loose right now. I don't know what he's saying down there, but when I'm watching him, it looks to me like he's having a really hard time keeping the back underneath him.
It was a good battle while it lasted between the top two. Now we see Chris Buescher in the 60, Xfinity Series points leader.
And you know what we call that? Passing Brendan Gaughan, we call that +1 point.
+1.
And with 8 races to go, it's going to sound silly, but if I'm on Chris Buescher's radio, that's exactly what I'm telling him. We're not racing Chicago. We're racing for a championship. So every bit of coaching I'm doing is focusing on the big picture at the end. I want every move he makes to consider the end of the year. Every point, every restart, on and off pit road, because it's his championship to lose. Even with 8 races left, he has the lead. He has to continue to put the pressure on. He has to do what he's doing. He's in 9th. 9th doesn't sound great. Well, it sounds pretty good when Chase Elliott is back in 16th.
Yeah, and Ty and Chris are doing a good job of running better, or going to finish better than where they've run most of the night. On the flip side, the 9 car ran a little better at the beginning of the race, and his car, I mean, it's cooled down a lot. It's also, there's no sun out now. The track has made this transition. It benefited the 3 and the 60, and it hurt the 9. So it's kind of been a tale of 2 races to me tonight.
Chase Elliott has lost a spot. Came in second in the points. Now he's third, 3 behind Ty Dillon.
And I'm a fan of different point systems between our Sprint Cup level and our Xfinity level. I think that the playoff system, the chase system in the Sprint Cup level is great. It's great for drama. And no offense, the pressure's good. You guys are supposed to be the best in the world. You've made the top tier. I want to see you race under pressure. Where the younger drivers, I want to see the maturity. I want to see the driver that can put it together for an entire season through the road course stretch, out of the speedways. That daunting task of trying to go from February all the way to November.
Well, what's amazing is that the Truck Series and Xfinity Series, that you've got 3 guys that are so close to points in both of them. So it's making it a great battle all the way down to Homestead.
One of the storylines we're going to have to follow as we close in on the final 17 laps is Kyle Larson is closing the gap between he and Kyle Busch, but does he have enough fuel? This is what they said on the radio just moments ago.
We still can't make it on fuel, though, is that right? It's going to be very, very close. We're going to start, when we get close here, if we get enough gap, we're going to have to start saving, but it's going to be very close.
That's probably not what you want to hear as a race car driver.
Well, that's the
radio.
one negative for running the wall. I will admit, while it seems in general the Chevrolets don't get quite the same fuel consumption the Toyotas and the Fords do in the Xfinity Series, he's definitely not taking the short way.
Right.
And that's
running
also
a 2-mile track, not a 1.5 mile track.
That's right. that does hurt fuel mileage.
I just wonder can the leaders both make it on fuel, because it
Run
seems
out
like
on the checkered flag.
There you have it.
There you go. It seems like they've slowed their pace down. Like Kyle Busch has definitely slowed his pace down. Kyle Larson has not yet, even though we heard the crew chief say when we get in some clean track, we're going to back it down a little.
So this is becoming a fuel mileage race. Here's what the 54 had to say about fuel mileage on the radio.
All right, bud, we're good on fuel just to the line. So just take care of it and save me fuel just in case. We're good right to the number, though.
That's precise.
I don't really want to list all the assumptions you have to make to do that, because I used to, right? You have to assume it was full. You have to assume that as the sun went down, we haven't picked up our pace a little bit. There's a lot of assumptions you have to make. I mean, fuel mileage, I'm not being fun. Like, it is a gray math figure at best. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions to put in that equation to see if it makes it.
My gut tells me that the crew chief sold that really well to the driver, but he has no fingernails left in this over, because he doesn't really believe that yet.
Another fuel mileage story, the 16, Marty.
And I tell you who's hoping their gray math, as Steve put it, works out really well is Seth Barber and Bubba Wallace and his race team. I just asked Seth a moment ago, remember, these guys pitted at lap 133, 11 laps before everybody else, and they stayed out on that last caution. He said they should be good to the end. And oh, by the way, he's running really quick lap times, which might concern you a little bit in terms of using too much fuel, but they think they're going to be good to the end. And we've seen these guys stretch fuel mileage earlier this year, and it's worked out for them. Kelly?
Well, and I spoke to Mike Hillman Jr., the crew chief for the 2-car. He said there was no way that they could make it. They would be in trouble if this race went green. In fact, now we've just heard over the radio that they're going to pit with about 6 laps to go.
See, and that would be my question to Darrell Wallace Jr. 11 laps, that's over 16 miles. They think they can go 16 miles further than everybody else on fuel?
That is a long ways to have to go. That'd be interesting if they're able to make that. We haven't talked about him much, but he's having a really good night. So is Buescher, and Ryan Reed's in 14th. It's like the Roush cars struggled at Richmond, and I heard all those guys talk about it on TV last night. Like, that's been a bad track for them, but their intermediate program seems to be pretty solid.
One of the great things about NASCAR, you can listen into the radio and hear a little bit of the strategy. This is what the 20 had to say.
I'm going to catch him here. I'm either going to catch him or hit the wall. Run him down.
I mean, they're going to
get aggressive.
I like it. Well, they're going to need to, because right behind the 20 is that Ineos Chevrolet 42 of Kyle Larson. We talked about running the top. What's the top good for? Long runs, old tires. And while we keep talking about fuel and fuel consumption, he has cut this 3-second lead down to 1.3 seconds. If you look at the top, the header across the top of your screen, you see Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Larson, 46 laps since the last time they were on pit road. Darrell Wallace Jr. and Brian Scott, 57. Now look, I'm an open-minded guy, but if I'm one of the front 3 and Darrell Wallace Jr. runs 11 laps farther than me and makes it,
I'm going to be upset.
We're going to have a little chat on Monday. We're going to have to figure out how that happened, because, you know, listen, you could stick your head in the sand. Fuel mileage isn't exciting. It isn't what racing is all about. You know what? No, yes, it is. Fuel mileage is a major strategy on how you win. So you can't just work on speed and aerodynamics. Someone has to be working on the fuel mileage.
Kyle Busch wants to have at least 8 more laps of fuel, as he is out in front of Matt Kenseth by 0.7 of a second. But we have just 8 laps to go from here at Chicagoland. Kyle Larson has closed the gap, as you mentioned, just 1.5 seconds back. Darrell Wallace Jr. and Brian Scott, they are back 10 and 14 seconds respectively, and they're also back 11 laps less fuel than the guys up front.
That 54 car looks loose up against the wall.
Let's see how the speeds are as they cross the line. at the line. Kenseth was fastest by quite a mile an hour, but Kyle Larson running second quick in that lap, and Kyle Busch was the third fastest.
Matt Kenseth's biggest cheerleader right now is Kyle Larson, because that's Kyle's best chance. Kyle Larson's best chance is Matt Kenseth gets to the 54.
Right, and gets too wide.
Once you get too wide, these cars get so draggy. Once their top speed slowed down, that's really the 42's big chance.
And those guys both going to the top has hurt Kyle Larson. You can tell he was catching them, and he's a ways back right now, but even as far back as he is, that's hurting him a little bit. I noticed that when the 42 was catching the 20, he was running about 8 inches higher. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're only 18 inches from the wall, that's a big difference. But there is grip when you can move up just that little bit extra. Now the 54 is as high as you can possibly get right now, and his car looks loose, but he's able to maintain.
Brian Scott said their team said they couldn't make it on fuel, so they knew they were going to have to come onto pit road around lap with 5 or 6 to go. So with 5 to go, Brian Scott on pit road, but on the same strategy as Darrell Wallace Jr. He was on pit road lap 133, so again 11 laps fewer as far as fuel for Darrell Wallace Jr.
And I'm looking at traffic, guys. We talk about Kyle Busch. Well, he goes into turn 3 right against the wall. Well, in front of him, there's 3 lap cars, and a couple of them are running the walls.
They are running high, yeah.
And as you mentioned, that's going to affect the air. That's going to start to affect these cars. So with 4 to go, we've seen this before, how quickly it can change. 1 lap car takes away the air, takes away the momentum, and the leader can lose it. Matt Kenseth will be there to capitalize.
Yeah, lap cars could definitely dictate the winner of this race. When you see it's the 25 and the 9 are just in front of Kyle Busch right now, and they are running the line that he wants to run. So if he catches them in the wrong spot, Matt Kenseth will get a run on him and most likely get by.
Steve, you mentioned 1 position equals 1 point. We saw Chris Buescher trying to get by Daniel Suarez, wasn't able to do it. Now, with just 3 laps to go, Kyle Busch has a half a second lead over Matt Kenseth. We heard on the radio, Kenseth said, I'm going to get him. I'll either put it into the wall or I'll catch him.
I'd say the 20 looks a little better on the exit of each corner. He's catching Kyle back right now, running about a half a tenth quicker.
And here's the problem. Kyle Busch knows the traffic's there. He goes to the bottom. Matt Kenseth says, I'm going to give it 1 more set of corners. He's going to have momentum here off turn 4. He's going to have a big run on the 54.
And Kyle had to check up a little bit because Chase Elliott was just outside of him, so he wasn't able to use as much of the racetrack as he wanted. But now, what line will Kenseth take to try to get him? He goes high. John West Townley's up there. Kyle Busch has cleared both of them.
Look at this run, though. Look at the run Matt Kenseth has.
Kenseth, a huge run, but John West Townley's going to hold his line. Kenseth to the bottom of the track for the lead. They're side by side through 3 and 4. Kenseth in front, but now here comes Kyle Busch right back.
That was a huge, huge effort by Matt. You got to give him credit.
White flag. Less than a lap to go. What an incredible pass by the 20 of Matt Kenseth. But he wasn't able to hang on. Kyle Busch back out front as they go down the backstretch.
By 10 to your lap buffer.
You know, Matt's still driving as hard as he can because there is a possibility the 54 could run out 100 feet from the start-finish line. He can get back by him.
All right, bring it here.
And across the stripe, Kyle Busch is going to win in Chicago.
Yes. Good job, guys. Way to do it.
That was a great race, Stan. Great finish.
What a
Good
finish.
job, KB. You way to drive your butt off there and get it done.
For sure, when Matt Kenseth lays down tonight, he's going to know he did everything he could to try to win this race.
Incredible run to the end for Matt Kenseth. Kyle Busch was able to do the crossover, get right back. How about Darrell Wallace Jr.? Had enough fuel to get back to 3rd.
That's a sharp pencil and a good calculator. I'm impressed. That's well done.
Great finish for him.
And Kyle Larson in the 42, unfortunately, didn't make it. Ended up 22nd. Darrell Wallace all the way up to 3rd. But what a move. We saw lap traffic come into it. We knew it was going to come into it. They caught the lap traffic. The 54 lost some momentum. It was huge. The big difference right here, though, is the 25 stays between the 2. Forces the 20 of Matt Kenseth to the bottom. He drives in super deep. You know at this point, Kyle has to know he's not making this corner.
Right. No chance. Kyle actually looks like he slowed down a little bit and got turned so he could run a little lower off the exit of 4.
Well, the record continues to grow. Kyle Busch, the winningest driver in Xfinity Series history, now 74 career wins. He has been dominant anytime he gets into an Xfinity race. That's the 4th win this year already for Kyle Busch, and the 4th Chicagoland win that he has. What an impressive attempt it was for Matt Kenseth to try to get that lead, but not able to complete it. Now we'll see Rowdy bow to the crowd, his signature victory move.
He's earned a lot of bows in his Xfinity career, some easier than others, and Matt Kenseth made him work in those closing laps tonight.
Yeah, I mean, to run green flag that long and kind of come down to somewhat of a fuel mileage race, that was a really exciting last 2 or 3 laps.
He grabs another checkered flag. As I mentioned, 74 career wins in the Xfinity Series. It's going to take a couple rooms to hold all the trophies. The car doesn't want to stay on the banking, by the way.
It's not, does
it? And it's a mix of applause and at some point in time, when you win so much, the fans are like, oh, we got to cheer against you. But he has definitely won enough to earn the respect of not only his peers, but also the fans.
The curved backstretch wall got Kenseth. Like, it was coming in. I think Matt was trying to figure out if the 25 was going to go to the bottom or go to the top. And he actually got into the wall, turned into the corner a little bit.
Once again, Kyle Busch will head to victory lane. We'll be there when he gets there when we come back. Fireworks continuing over the skyline here at Chicagoland Speedway. A great fight. The fireworks were on the racetrack as well the last 2 laps between Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch, 2 dominant drivers. And in the end, it was Kyle Busch that gets the nod and the win. His 4th win here at Chicagoland in the Xfinity Series. He's had quite a bit of success at every racetrack that he goes to. Let's go to Dave Burns. He caught up with Matt Kenseth.
Matt Kenseth finishes 2nd tonight with some exciting racing there at the end. Describe trying to get your teammate there at the final laps.
Yeah, I just couldn't get Clyde Torkel out of the way, but I was trying, and thanks to Chase for giving us a late in the race for the win there. But really, the best car didn't win tonight. The best driver did. Kyle just did a better job of driving than I did. I had the fastest car with our Reese's Camry and just did I just took too long to get to the top and try to make that work at the end of that run. So anyway, we got beat. It's a bummer to be 2nd. These guys bring the fastest car every week, and I got one more shot to win one with them. Hope we can do it at Kansas.
So you can tell the disappointment there with Matt not being able to close the deal there. Said he had the fastest car, but obviously in the end it was a situation where he couldn't pick the line that he wanted to try to get by Kyle Busch.
I'm not sure. I think Clyde Torkel was actually the owner. I think Stroke Race was the driver, though, right?
He was.
I thought that's what it was.
Let's go to victory lane now.
Kyle Busch climbing from the car, the confetti in the air. He stands triumphant. Ludacris, the actor, right over here, and the man who was actually fast and furious tonight was certainly Kyle Busch. Led over 100 laps. And what a battle between you and your teammate, Matt Kenseth there. What were those last laps like?
Well, it was
It was tough, man. That was a race. I thought that was a blast, you know, being able to run with Matt like that. I'm glad it was a teammate, you know, but overall these Joe Gibbs racing cars tonight were really strong. Can't say enough about Toyota and TRD and Monster Energy, of course, XFINITY, and the fans that were here today, and many of the fans that are watching on TV. We had a very fast Camry here, and just can't say enough about Chris Gale. All the adjustments we made all night long to get the car better and better and better. And the battle with Matt Kenseth, man, I don't know. It's just, I thought when I got to him and I got clear of him and I drove away by a second plus, it was over. I was like, okay, thank you. I can breathe a little bit. Then he started running us back down, and then tried to go back to the top, and I was loose up there again when I went back there. So just had to battle through that and try to beat him. He was right there, though.
Did you expect that maybe he'd be able to mount yet another challenge in that final lap?
No, once he lost his momentum off of 4, it was over. You know, I can't. That dive bomb, that was crazy. I heard inside, and I was like, is that the 25? And I seen a black car, and I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see how this goes. You know, it was like that old Carl Edwards move at Kansas on Jimmy Johnson there towards the end. But I just, you know, got enough cut in the center of the corner to know that he was going to just stop and block the top, so I had to get my run back underneath him. And that was some fun racing, though.
Before tonight, you had already led over 780 laps here at this speedway. You added another 100 to that mark here tonight. What is it about you in Chicagoland Speedway?
I don't know. I wasn't sure I was going to win this thing early on the way that 20 car was running. He was really strong. That Reese's Camry was just flying. So I told Gale, you know, they're kicking our butt right now. We got to go to work. We got to fix this thing. And he did. He gave me some real good adjustments and got us an opportunity to be able to race with the 20. And that last run, man, he checked out on me again. He ran about a second out on me, and then I was like, I got nothing to lose, you know, I'm going to have to try something. So I went to the top and started making the top work. But, man, we are flying around this place in these things. I mean, the throttle on time, if I had an in-car camera, is just unbelievable of what we got to do to get around this place around the top. It's a little scary, a little nerving, but at the same time, kind of fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kyle Busch in victory lane at the Chicagoland Speedway, his 4th Xfinity Series win of 2015.
He and his teammate, the class of the field, a guy who got a career best finish tonight, Darrell Wallace Jr., was able to stretch the fuel mileage out, get 3rd. He's with Marty.
Well, Darrell Wallace Jr. said he didn't want to celebrate it like it was a win, but I'm sure it feels like a win. When you run out of fuel coming off 3 and 4 and you're able to finish 3rd, not a bad night, is it?
No, that's good call to the engineer and Seth on top of the box. Hell, the whole team. This is, like I said, I don't like celebrating a 3rd like it's a win, but, man, we needed it after this past weekend, or last weekend. Really, really good effort from my team here. Can't thank Roush Performance Parts for jumping on board. Ford EcoBoost, Roush Yates, the engine was rolling all night. Played it very safe there, coming off of 4. Didn't want to jeopardize a good finish for us because, man, I can't tell you how excited I am for this finish.
How about the team this weekend, though? I mean, it was, you tested here, it was good, but when you came yesterday, you guys struggled and had to work to be able to make this happen.
Yeah, you know, the test doesn't really mean anything. You can't expect to test and have a good test and then show up and be everything the same. You got to constantly grind and work hard at this, and that's what we did. We never gave up all night. This thing was a handful for sure on restarts. I thought we'd be okay there with clean air, but it was kind of hard to control those cars behind me.
Congratulations from Jack Roush coming here. A career best 3rd place finish for Darrell Wallace Jr.
Chris Buescher and the 60 team overcame a penalty on pit road to finish 7th, and probably more important, you're ahead of Chase Elliott, just 2 spots behind Ty Dillon. So how successful was this night?
7th isn't necessarily successful, or wherever we ended up here, 7th, but it wasn't a bad night for our 5th third bank Mustang. We had a lot of work to do, and we made a lot of adjustments to try and get better. Just really struggling for some front turn. We finally found something that was working there at the end, and I used up pretty much all the tire we had, and I caught the 18 there, and he moved his line up, and it was pretty much the only line I could use, so we were kind of stuck. But the guys did a good job. You know, it's penalty. We got right back to where we were before that pretty quick. So, you know, overall, it's a decent night. When you look at it from a point standpoint, that's all right. I just want to finish better than 7th. We need to be running top 5. I want to be competing for some more wins this year.
Little disappointed, but he extends that championship lead.
What an incredible recovery for Ty Dillon after the speeding penalty early on in this race. How in the world did you guys get back to a top 5 finish?
It all started with a great Bass Pro Chevy. Our car was real fast. This is the kind of run that we need. We really haven't had this all year, and had a very fast car, and unfortunately I put us behind. I was pretty disappointed myself, but I wasn't going to let these guys down. We were able to battle back. Proud of our finish. We keep doing this. We'll get in victory lane, man. We're getting closer and closer. Kentucky's a place that I love going to, and our guys, we seem to run real well there. So real proud of our effort tonight. I put us behind. I won't let it happen again, and we'll keep doing this. And I think it's our 8th top 5 of the year, so we're going to keep plugging away. We get some more of these top 5s, we'll get in victory lane.
And when you look up, you beat both of your championship rivals. That doesn't hurt the night either, does it?
It definitely makes you a little bit happier by the end of it. So proud of our guys. We're doing what we need to do. We just got to keep finishing like this and let the cards fall where they fall.
All right, a very impressive top 5 for these guys. Going to get a congratulations from his grandfather, who he heard on the radio all night long, coaching him all the way.
200 laps, 300 miles. It ends up Kyle Busch out front as we look at the unofficial results. And they were the class of the field. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, they were 1 and 2, all but 17 laps of that 200 lap race.
Well, I mean, we talked about it at the top of the show. The garage was abuzz. These cars had the most speed, and they showed it. Daniel Suarez ended up 6th. Regan Smith at a track he doesn't usually run very well at ended up with another top 10.
Yeah, Elliott Sadler I saw in there, P8. He had a really long night, so that was a good result for him as well.
The other junior motorsports cars, Casey Kane in 12th. You know when he gets in that 88 car, he wants to run better than 12th in that. You have Chase Elliott, championship hopes, took a little bit of a hit tonight running 14th.
Yeah, Kyle Larson fell all the way back to 22nd. I guess he ran out of gas with just a couple of laps to go.
And all the way back through the 40 cars. And what an incredible run it was. Ryan Blaney had a difficult night. It's been a difficult weekend for Ryan Blaney. He comes home in 35th. Take a look at the point standings. Chris Buescher, 25 points now, the cushion over Ty Dillon in second. Chase Elliott dropped back behind Ty Dillon. Those two have swapped positions now. Regan Smith, 51 points out. So just outside of one race is what Regan Smith is back points-wise.
And you know what I love to hear is Chris Buescher didn't stand in front of the camera tonight and say, that's right, we gained points, we did what we want. He said 7th isn't good enough. He wants to run the top 5 and wants to contend for wins. And that might seem silly, Jim, but I think that's the right attitude to protect his points lead.
No, you could totally sense his frustration. He got beat by the Ty Dillon, and they need to finish ahead. They want to finish ahead of each other every single week. So I guess he could have been up here with us. It looked like he struggled most of the night, and 7th was a really good result for where they ran. But yeah, you always want more.
That's a good point. We enjoyed having you up here in the booth, Jamie. Hopefully this perspective was enjoyable for you to see a race from this side of the racetrack. And obviously we're going to wish you best of luck in the chase and of course, tomorrow's race.
Well, I had a great time. I learned a lot. I learned that there's a lack of shoes worn in this booth, which was
Don't
new.
give away the secrets.
It's also really cold, but it was fun to get to see everything with all of the cameras that you guys have, and then also just the way the race plays out with timing and scoring, and then being able to see the whole track. So I really appreciate you guys having me.
We had a blast. It was enjoyable. I've been looking for you. Top, right against the wall. That's what it was today. Surely that's where it'll be tomorrow.
Most likely for the one car, that's where it will be tomorrow. Yes.
Well, good luck.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. The lines have been seen out here on the racetrack from Chicagoland. The playoffs start tomorrow in the chase for the Sprint Cup with the MyAFibRisk.com 400. Coverage on NBCSN begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Coming up next, over 1,000 classic collector cars hit the auction block floor. Mecum Auctions Dallas. That's coming up next. A dominant performance by the 54 and 20. In the end, it was Kyle Busch getting his 4th Chicagoland win.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.